You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All right, folks, well, happy Friday. That's right. We've made it. It's Friday. It's just a few minutes past the hour 11 Eastern right here on KLNRradio.com, and you are listening to Robinson and Wright. I'm Robinson, he's right, and no, that doesn't mean he's always right. Doesn't mean I'm always right either, but, just saying. Basically making fun of myself for a major typo today. Started trying to promote the show and use the hashtag and realized I had spelled right R-I-G-H-T and didn't catch it, and then went back to try to fix it, and autocorrect still left it alone, and I didn't catch that either. I'm like, really?
Well, you know what? I am right, so that's okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just one of those things. Oh, so anyway, what's new with you? Lots of stuff going on in the news, so I figure we'll start out by talking a little bit about what's been going on in our week. Also, I kind of thought, since this is the official launch, this might be a good time to actually talk about the graphic, because we've been catching some heat on the graphic, and everybody's like, well, you're just trying to make a political statement about guns and blah, blah, blah. No, not really. I mean, there's political imagery and messages all through the thing if you really take a second to look, and I think it would be kind of cool to finally explain it, because honestly, I didn't even really think about some of it until we had finally put it all together, and I'm like, oh, even subconsciously I didn't realize this worked out as well as it actually did. So, taking the graphic from the least offensive parts first, the parties being basically eviscerated, it kind of makes it look like we're taking the parties apart. But at the same time, the parties have really been taken apart during this election cycle. The Democratic Party is almost in as much of a shambles as the Republican Party, and the Republican Party has been completely eviscerated. So that's kind of the overall thought of that graphic, is not only did Dan and I take shots evenly among both parties because we really don't like either one, this cycle has pretty much eviscerated both of them. Now, as far as the guns themselves, Dan noticed it, nobody else has, but if you'll notice, the guns are actually pointing at us. So first things first, the Smith & Wesson Sigma is the gun that I carried for 12 years while I was a private investigator, private security officer, and I ran and owned my own company. It was also the weapon that I carried when I was in uniform. So it's always been a part of me. I still have it. It's still put up. I still go shoot it from time to time. And, I mean, come on. The 1911 is part of Dan's Twitter handle. So, obviously, that's a rather important gun to him. So, that's why those graphics are there, or those guns are there. But the thing that nobody noticed is we actually have the guns pointing at us, which is kind of a double message, because Dan and I take shots from everybody because we tell it exactly how we see it, stand up for it, and don't back down from it. So, everybody likes to give us a lot of crap, call us names, and everything else. There's also another little meaning to that. Our favorite things, or some of our favorite things, or things that mean a lot to us, are currently pointed in our direction, which is exactly how we feel about this political season, because Dan and I are both very active in the conservative movement and have been for quite some time, and we literally feel like that movement left us behind and has turned against us. So there are lots of things going on in the graphic, and it's not just about the guns for you liberal whiners who've been giving me grief now for 10 days. Just saying.
Exactly. And you just said it exactly the way I would have said it. We're shooting holes in political lies. That alone says guns are involved. We just happen to say, wow, you know what? Rick loves the Sigma and I love the 1911. Let's put them in the graphic. But we turned them, like you said, at ourselves. And I love the graphic. I think it's fantastic. And that's our graphic. And if you don't like it, call in and let us know why you don't like it. That would be fantastic too.
Yeah, actually it would. Maybe at some point we should get all these people together that are complaining about the graphic and let them come on the show and tell us why they're complaining about the graphic. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Friday night is varsity football night here in the little small town that I live in. So we may wind up having to take the break early because the wife has decided not to take the son out to dinner. I guess they're coming home. So we may take a break abruptly, but we're still going to go ahead and get started. I just don't want you guys to hear the madhouse that ensues while he's coming through the front door. So biggest thing I really want to talk about, and I guess it's kind of, we'll start off with the fun stuff this evening, I guess. So for those of you who have been living under a rock, Sean Hannity has recently gone full Trumpkin. I'm talking full caps lock, full yelling at people on Twitter while he's supposed to be enjoying a concert, coming out in audio and talking about how he's this tough guy, and we decided to have a little bit of fun with it. So just sit back and enjoy this for a few seconds.
Maybe I'm not being clear. Let me be clear. Because, look, everybody that I've had some type of fight with on this particular issue where I say you own it, and that's what you're referring to. Be it Glenn, or be it, Rich Lowry, or Jonah Goldberg, or Brett Stevens from the Wall Street Journal, or the NRO goes, and I'm not saying anything, I'm not advancing this today. I've got a lot on my plate today. But what I'm saying, they've all taken shots at me first, and I'm a counterpuncher. I punch back. Now working towards my black belt. I'm very close. I got probably a couple of years. I finally got my brown belt. I'm moving up in degrees, and I kind of treat my business the same way. If you hit me or if you come at me, I'm going to really hurt you and defend myself. And I don't mean hurt in the physical. So this is verbal combat, fun warfare.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But, yeah, so that's kind of my whole take. As soon as I heard Sean Hannity talking about how he was a brown belt working his way to his black belt, the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, there's a song that would fit this perfectly. And there have even been folks that have started making parody accounts of Sean Hannity calling themselves Kung Fu Sean and Kung Fu Hannity. And it's just kind of, I mean, when you see someone that you used to look up to, that has been doing this longer than you and has gotten to the point to make it to where you at some point want to be, even if it's not quite that big and not quite that huge, but still doing this type of thing for a living and being able to support yourself doing it, to watch them do the mental gymnastics that this man has had to do, and the just complete total turnaround on his own audience that he's had to do is completely astounding to me. I mean, I understand some of the smaller folks that are doing it, like Bill Mitchell and Wayne Dupree and everybody else, because they found the niche within the Trump movement at this point, and it's propelled them somewhere. Because they have all of the angry Trumpkins that are tuning in, feeding their fire, and they really feel like they've found something because of the response that they're getting from that group. But they don't realize how short-lived it's actually going to be, regardless. Because, I mean, come November, whoever wins, they're done.
You're absolutely correct. It doesn't matter. No matter what happens in the election, you have Wayne Dupree, who has shunned everybody that supported him for years. He's completely shunned them. And you have Bill Mitchell, who is literally a used car salesman, and when this is all over, he's just going to be a used car salesman. It's ridiculous. These people have glommed onto Trump. And even if he wins, it's over in 4 years. It's done. So they've given themselves a 4-year life cycle and totally shunned. Me and Wayne, I used to love Wayne Dupree. It's done. He has me blocked on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wayne and I never really got along. I tried, but we just never really got along. He's always been one of those people that was always more worried about his own brand than anybody else's, and I actually had reached out to him after he had poached a host from me years ago and said, hey, I don't have an issue with the fact that you got one of my guys to do a show with you. I really don't care, because as long as we can do shows together, that's fine. And then the next thing I know, I'm blocked on Twitter, and he's ignoring me, and JD and Stacy are over here, and so's half of the rest of his crew. All right, so I'm seeing headlights, so we probably need to go ahead and take the break here really quick. When we come back, we'll keep talking about the mess that is 2016 and the fact that the right keeps marching further and further left, and probably make a little bit more fun of Sean Hannity. We'll be right back here in just a couple minutes.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All riders are becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is Robinson and Wright, and it is Friday night, and we are just kind of talking about the mess. Okay, so I have to ask, because you and I really haven't talked about this very much, and I've kind of been asking the same questions across all the different shows I do, because Lord knows I don't have enough work on my plate. So the recent shifts for Trump, how do you feel about some of the things that he's saying right now?
Well, he's doing exactly what I figured he would do back in June. I think it was about June 16th of 2015 when I said I wouldn't support him. He's pivoting completely left. And I totally expected it. I knew he would. He's got his base that calls themselves the alt-right and say they're righter than me, but yet they will defend every new program that comes out. I was actually called a woman hater yesterday. I was called a woman hater because I don't support Trump's government mandated maternity leave and child care. I was called a woman hater by somebody who says they are right of me.
You know, the interesting thing about that is I just actually watched a Trump supporter make a rather anti-female statement about a friend of ours. So it seems to me they have the market still kind of cornered on that stuff, whether they really want to admit it or not. Because they're usually the first ones that are like, well, kind of like what they said to this person that I'm not going to repeat on the air. And it's just off-color, terrible stuff, and it's usually directed at either minorities or women. And they do it all the time. So for them to say just because all of a sudden now Lord Cheesy Poof has decided that he wants 6 weeks of daycare. The funny thing is, our 6 weeks of maternity leave and paid daycare. The funny thing is watching them now scramble to defend policies that they hated when they were Bernie Sanders' idea. They hated it when Bernie Sanders came up with the 12-week paid maternity leave idea. But now that it's Trump's idea, and it's 6 weeks, and because it's going to be paid for differently, and it's not going to be a mandate per se, it's completely different. But what they're leaving out is the fact that if these people don't have it, they're still going to force the companies to pay for it to make sure that they get it if they don't have any other way to get it. So yes, it is going to wind up being a mandate. It's going to wind up being passed on to the consumer. It's also going to wind up being passed on to the tax base, so we're going to get hit twice. And nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about what this policy is going to do to small business, which last I checked, the right has been clamoring for years around the phrases like Obama, "You didn't build that," has been saying that small business is the driving engine of the American economy. And yet now we have a big business crony capitalist pretending to be a conservative, pretending to be a Republican, who's going to do everything that he can to quash small business and leave his big business capital crony buddies all sitting back going, well, we can weather this, they can't. Thanks, Donnie.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the whole thing is that most companies now are taking on policies. I think it's somewhere between 60 and 70% of companies in this country have taken on policies to cover maternity leave. Companies are doing it. Companies, why don't you let the companies that are driving our economy take care of it? Because they are. Insurance companies and everybody else are starting to offer this stuff, and companies are taking it on. And Trump's just going to come in and say, no, here you go. We're going to figure it out. It's going to be, whether it's going to be a tax break or whether it's going to be whatever it's going to be, it's a government-run policy. It's a government-run. The government runs anything. It costs us money. That's all there is to it. Now you've got to hire thousands of employees to monitor this. So now our taxes have to pay those people. It's ridiculous. It's something that has been on the forefront, and the private sector is taking care of it. Let the private sector take care of it. By bringing in more programs, all you're doing is creating more government jobs, making government bigger. The child care thing. Yeah, okay, so you get a tax break a bigger tax break for your child care. Well, now the IRS needs to hire 500 more people. People don't understand what that does. It creates bigger government.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that what Trump said he was against, was bigger government?
Yes, exactly what he said he was against. That's exactly why he's where he is now. That's exactly why he beat out every conservative that ran. Now, we got screwed. We had 17. I mean, when was the last time you had 17 candidates running on one side in an election?
I call it six. I actually call it 16 and the clown, but I'll let you have your 17.
Well, yeah, I call it 16 and 23. That's what I call it. But he pandered to people that really never paid attention before. And part of the problem is the last 8 years. I get that. But those are the people that didn't pay attention 8 years ago or 4 years ago. They didn't pay attention. Now all of a sudden they're paying attention and they say, oh, everybody's a rhino but Trump. Well, Trump is the biggest rhino of all of them because he's not even a Republican. He's a Democrat. So out of 17, we had 16 Republicans. Some of them, I guess you can maybe call them rhinos if you want to. But upper tier of that, which was about 7 or 8 of them, were real true Republicans. And we ended up with a Democrat. We have a Democrat as the Republican nominee, and a Democrat as the Democrat nominee, and a Democrat as the Libertarian nominee. So where does that leave our choices? Democrat, Democrat, or Democrat?
I say it leaves us screwed, and screwed. But that's just me.
Yeah, and you and me both, we agree the Libertarian Party really let us down too. I mean, it's like we have no home. There's no home.
Well, we're working on that.
Everybody tells us how we should vote. Everybody likes to tell us how we should vote. I vote. Maybe I'll try to maintain the Congress and the Senate and see what happens otherwise, because I just have my principles, and you do too.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up the everybody telling us how we should vote thing, because that annoys me. Because, look, even though I'm sitting here telling people that I honestly think they're making a mistake if they vote for Trump, I'm still not telling them who to vote for. I'm just giving them my opinion. But these people, one of them shall remain nameless, but you know exactly who I'm talking about, who like to pull out the argument of, well, if you're against Hillary but you don't vote for Trump, then that's half a vote for Hillary. Or if you're against Trump and if you're against Hillary or Trump and you don't vote for Hillary, then that's basically still a half vote for Trump. These people and their mental gymnastics and their Common Core math just completely astound me, because none of that argument has never made sense to me. It doesn't make sense, because my vote is only going to count where I put my vote. And I have to tell you, at this point, I honestly don't know if I'm voting top ticket. I should, even though Gary Johnson's an idiot, I should at least still try to make sure that the Libertarian Party gets to stay on my ballot in Oklahoma. But I'm completely disillusioned by the Libertarian Party and the fact that they finally really had a chance to do something, and they proved they're no different than the other two parties. They finally had people listening to them. They finally had people watching them, and all they really did was say, well, carbon tax, maybe that's a good idea. Oh, no fly becomes no buy? Sure, we can do that. So basically you're Democrat light, and we have two full-blown Democratic parties standing next to you. I don't really see how that gives me much of a choice, because there are no conservatives anywhere in the parties right now at the top of the tickets. Fiscally or socially, there's not a conservative anywhere. There's just not.
No, there isn't. And I mean, as much as I'll say I came back to the Republican Party after 13 years. I did. I came back for people like Walker, Rubio, Paul, Cruz, Fiorina. I mean, those are the people. And even, I'll even say it, even Christie. I mean, I really never had a problem with Chris Christie until he was the first one to jump ship. And when I say jump ship, I mean endorse. But we had, the Libertarian Party had Austin Peterson, who if any of you out there listening watched the Libertarian debates, Austin Peterson owned those debates. But the way the Libertarian Party works, they don't have quite the organization. They can't have quite the organization that the other two parties have. So they literally choose their candidate. They choose their nominee at their convention, by convention. It's not really by vote. They don't really true votes in every state. So they choose their nominee. Well, they decided to choose somebody that would go against Hillary better by choosing a liberal. Instead of sticking by their original platform, which is less government, more freedom, who is Austin Peterson, who owned all the debates. He owned them. But they didn't go that direction. And bless him, he will back Johnson, and he is backing Johnson. And I look at it different than the Republicans that will back Trump, because it's a smaller party, and what choice does he have? You know, there's not as many of them. But I would like to see Austin Peterson break away for the next 2 to 4 years, because somebody like him and somebody like Ted Cruz, or dare I say Marco Rubio, that could be something that moves off and away from the GOP. That's just my tinfoil hat kind of thought.
Well, no, I mean, I agree with you. At this point, I think true conservatives, and no, for all of you that are like full, and this is not the last resort votes, and this is not the, well, we're down to 2 choices, so I'm going to pick the one that most aligns with me. I'm not saying this to insult you guys, because I've been where you are. I did the same thing for McCain. I did the same thing for, well, less for Romney, more for McCain. Because Romney, I actually thought Romney would have made a really good president. The problem is Romney was too far of what we need Trump to be, which is have like a moral center of some kind. Romney actually had a chance to go on the offensive in debate number 3, and his staff decided against it because they felt it was better to take the high road, because at that point they really thought they would get more traction with the American people by not attacking the president in a blatant lie that was made in the second debate. And I know this because I kept getting emails from people within the group that said, if you can't tell anybody that who I am or that I'm contacting you about this, but you keep asking us the same questions over and over again, so here's my answer. Simple fact of the matter is the people that were handling Romney's campaign decided that he needed to do what he did, which is not attack the president and try to take the high road, because they really thought they had it locked up that way. And I think that's one reason why the party swung as far as they did with Trump, because they watched Romney in the debates and they realized that he was a great guy. He had a lot of the right things that we needed as far as a POTUS, but he didn't have any teeth. So they went from Toothless McGee over here to Piranha Boy. And now we're watching the fact that not only do we have somebody with teeth, but he can't even be controlled at all. And he just basically gets turned loose, and anybody in his way is basically pulverized no matter which side of the argument they're on. And you've seen him do it over and over again. He'll attack his own. He'll attack people that he doesn't know. He'll attack people that he doesn't like, because that's what he does. He tells you his opinion, and if you don't agree with his opinion, he browbeats you until you agree with his opinion. I honestly think that's probably why Hannity has gone so far and so crazy as he has, because he's had probably the most exposure to Trump of any pundit. And it's been bad for Hannity. I'm telling you, he's full on like dark side Trump at this point. It's scary.
Yo, it is. And like you were saying, with Trump, he has gotten to the point where I see all this. I get all this on social media where I get yelled at, like, if you don't vote for Trump, you're just giving up SCOTUS. Well, what people don't understand is that Trump has attacked every single Republican senator that is up for re-election that didn't totally support him. If we lose the Senate and Trump wins, he doesn't get any SCOTUS appointments either, because a Democratic Senate is not going to approve his SCOTUS nominees. They're not going to do it. That's what they don't understand. Is now we're looking at possibly Hillary winning and losing the Senate. So if Hillary wins and Trump has destroyed the Senate, now we really do lose SCOTUS. We lose it. It's gone. This argument is so stupid. It absolutely just kills me that I'm being told that I'm the one that's going to take away our 2A rights. I'm the one that's going to take away our First Amendment rights. I'm the one that's going to take away everything because I've screwed up SCOTUS. No, I haven't. Trump has. Trump has, no matter how you look at it. Because if he wins and we lose the Senate, it's done. If he loses and we lose the Senate, it's done. Is that really hard to understand, or do I have a tinfoil hat on?
Well, I'll actually take things a little further, and I'm just saying this because it's something that I've been saying on Twitter now for several days. With his complete and total slide towards the left. I mean, look, he just, during his Dr. Oz interview, talked about the fact that he wanted to expand Medicaid. He's now wanting to do paid maternity leave. He's wanting to do a tax credit for daycare. He's wanting to do all of these things that are basically the ice cream vote. That's what a lot of us used to call it when the candidate was willing to hand out anything they had to do to get your vote. And it's been a term that's been used now for a while. The funny thing is, those of us that were on the right at one point, and I'm not sure what exactly we call ourselves now because the right has been co-opted, the left is not ours. I mean, so where exactly do we fit on the spectrum now when the right has become the left and the left is the same thing? So that's a question, I guess, for another show. But with all of those liberal choices and all of these things that he's rolling out, and I know that there are a lot of diehard Trump supporters and even some hold-their-nose Trump supporters are like, look, at this point, he's only saying what he has to do to pander to those votes because you guys won't vote for him. I don't believe that. I think Trump has been pretending to be something he's not now for nearly 16 months. I think he's put on the Republican candidate suit, and it never really fit him well, and he's slowly shedding it now because he doesn't need it. So my question for everyone who keeps saying that Trump is our best shot because he's the one that will preserve SCOTUS, when he keeps putting up liberal policy after liberal policy after liberal policy, what makes you think he's actually going to choose conservative judges? Especially when he's already talked about the fact that he thought I believe he said, was it his sister or a friend of his, that is like really, really liberal that would have made a really good Supreme Court judge?
His sister.
What I thought. So all of that, and again, and not to sound like Dr. Phil again for a moment, but the best indication of future behavior is always past behavior. And the fact that everyone seems to think that Trump is going to somehow keep his word when he breaks it every chance he gets over and over and over again about these SCOTUS appointments is insane to me. And look, again, I get it. There are people that are clinging to the hope that he's the last chance to save the country. Look, I don't buy into that crap anymore because we have been told this for every cycle from the time I was old enough to vote. This is the last chance to save America. This is the last chance to save America. If we don't vote right now, we're going to lose America. Look, I understand at some point we can't keep kicking the can down the road. But when you've got a guy on the right who's willing to spend just as much money as the lady on the left, and you're talking about the fact that we're going to be bankrupt soon, then what are we supposed to do? You've got a road that takes you to a cliff and a road that takes you to a bridge that's broken. Do you pick one and gun it, or do you find another direction? Because everybody's telling me we got to pick one and gun it, and I'm telling you that neither path is a good one, and neither path is a stable one. One may keep us moving for another 100 yards or so, but either way, we still wind up splat somewhere in a canyon, because that's just where we're headed right now. We're being pushed off of a cliff. The only difference is one has a bridge that gets you about halfway across, and you don't realize it's out till it's too late. And that's Trump. At least with Hillary, you know you're getting the cliff, so you can decide to turn around. But everybody's like, well, we gotta go with Trump because maybe he'll finish building the bridge before we get there. No, he won't, because he just told you he wants to spend just as much money as the liberals have for the last 8 years, if not more. But he's gonna save money because he's gonna fight the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. They all say that. They never do it. I mean, damn.
You know, I was told the other day, I was given an option. I was given the option of, you vote for one poison or the other, and don't tell me you won't vote. And you know what my response to that was? Shoot me. That was my response. Shoot me. Because that's the way I feel right now. I won't vote for either one. I will not. I can't. I cannot vote for either one. Do it. I have friends that say, you need to just vote for Hillary. We can't have Trump. But I can't do that either. At this point, I can't do that either. I don't know. Maybe somebody sways me before November 8th. Maybe they do. But they won't sway me to Trump. I can tell you that much. They just won't. Because I know what I get with Hillary. I won't vote for her. At this point, I will not vote for her. But I know what I get. I don't know what I get with Trump. I do not want to vote for maybes. I don't want to vote for maybes. Maybes don't work for me. I know what I get. I know Trump could screw us up. We could hit 2020 and see 2040 before we see another conservative. We could. I don't even like using the word conservative anymore because everybody equates it to Trump. I don't get that, but it could really ruin us. We could be looking at Dem control of the White House for 20 years beyond Trump. That's not what I want to take. That is not a chance I want to take at all.
Well, I mean, the thing that nobody's talking about is the millennials, because let's face it, there is this group of what are called millennial voters. Now, it's a pretty wide-ranging group. There are some that are in their late 20s. There are some that are just now coming to the age where they can vote. But they're still basically being considered millennials. And for those of you who don't know, millennial is for the folks that were born on either side of the 2000 turnover. So late 90s, early 2000s, that's kind of the millennial folks. And they're just now starting to come of age, just now starting to come of their own. And someday soon they will be running the country. Thanks to Trump, they have no interest at all in the Republican Party. We have lost so many of the gains that we've made with the younger generations because of the fact that Trump has been running around like a bull in a china shop. And the older folks that have been watching the Republicans lay down and take it for decades upon decades upon decades are the ones that have been eating everything that Trump says and does up, because they're like, finally, somebody's as mad as I am, and they're finally telling people exactly how we feel. The only difference is he doesn't believe what he's saying. You like it because he's angry and you're angry, but he doesn't believe a word that he's saying to you. If he did, he wouldn't keep changing everything that he says and does. He hasn't picked a single thing that he's stuck with. Not one of his original things that he's been talking about during the debates is anywhere near where it was when this conversation started. It keeps sliding further and further and further left. And I know there's somebody out there, and no, Miss Boots, I'm not saying this about you. I just saw that you put it in the chat, but I was already going to say this anyway. I know there's somebody out there who, as soon as I mentioned Trump talking about his sister was like, but Rick, that wasn't even on the list that he put out there. Here's something that nobody's talking about with that list. That wasn't even Trump's list. The Republican establishment gave him that list as a test to see if he would use it, and he did. But then as soon as he used it, he started backing away from it. It's no different than his NRA stances. He doesn't have an NRA stance. He spent a day in a room talking to the NRA and developed what he thought he should say based on their answers and responses to his questions. This is what Trump does. He's a salesman. He reads a room, he puts information together, files it away for later, and he uses it. This is why his campaign falls apart, picks up momentum, falls apart again, because he sets things differently in each group, hoping that nobody's ever going to notice, and hoping that if they compare, all he's got to do is talk about how unfair the media is to him, and how all they're doing is stretching, distorting, and or changing his words. That is Trump to a T.
That's it. And yeah, the media is unfair to him, yet he got all the way through the primaries self-funded. Do you know how he got through the primary self-funded? Because the media pushed him. Fox pushed him with Hannity and O'Reilly and Bowling and Fox and Friends and all of that because they just pushed him. They just, I don't even know why they did. I really don't. But they pushed him. The other media outlets, man, people just don't learn. They did the same thing with McCain. Pushed him and pushed him and pushed him, and as soon as he got the nomination, boom, I'm done with you. It's free press until you get the nomination. When are we going to learn? Not when are we going to learn. You and I have learned. We learned the last 8 years. But nobody else learns. Now he complains about the media. Well, you didn't look and you didn't listen. He complains. The media is against me. Well, they weren't against you in the primaries. They weren't against McCain in the primaries. They weren't against Romney in the primaries.
No, it's because they found a formula. Look, I understand that it sucks to be conservative in a world that is pretty much run by liberals. I get that. I really do. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if there is an actual conservative candidate out there, the press will do everything they can to put up the one and make the one seem strongest that they believe is the easiest to beat. And they've done that now time and time again. They did it with McCain. They did it with Romney. Now they did it with Trump. Now, it might actually bite them with Trump. I mean, I still don't honestly know who's going to win this thing. Because depending on where you look, the numbers keep shifting. And, I mean, last time I looked, even 512's numbers had changed a little bit. So who knows? I mean, we're down to a... We're down...
538 is at 60% for Hillary and 40% for Trump.
I don't know why I would say 512.
I'll trust their numbers more than anybody's. But 2 months ago, Trump 1%, and now he's at 40. But the other thing is too, and I've said it before, is Hillary is sitting in a hot rod idling. She hasn't started. She hasn't done anything. She's not trying. And she's still at 60. So if she's not trying, what happens when she starts trying? She's going to start trying. She's sitting on a war chest. She's sitting on an absolute war chest, and Trump's got a couple $1 million. That's the way it is right now. It's gonna explode is what's gonna happen. I've watched it the last years, and I watched it from afar because I left, and I loved GW. I did, and I do, and I think he got screwed, and that's partially why I left, but she is sitting on a war chest. she's got to spend it, and she's going to. And to be honest with you, she's a lawyer. When everybody tells me I'm an idiot when I say it, but when these debates really start, when we really have a debate, she's going to own him. She's going to make him sound like a petulant child. And I'm not happy about that. I mean, the guy that's supposed representing me, which I won't let represent me, is going to get owned. He is going to get owned in the debates. He is going to get absolutely owned. And the stuff he pulled in the primary debates is not going to work with Hillary. It's not going to work. She's going to sit back and she's going to make him look like a petulant child if he tries to pull that crap. That's what's going to happen. It saddens me, man. It just saddens me.
No, and I mean it does. And I think the thing that has kind of hit home for me the most is I have friends that are on the other side of this argument, and I can't even try to talk to them about this without it becoming personal for them, because they think that when I'm talking about the diehard Trumpers that I'm talking about them. I don't think of any of the people that I know as diehard Trumpers, because a lot, I mean, at least the ones that I still talk to on a regular basis. There are some that I no longer speak to at all that are diehard Trumpers, and they're full on frothing at the mouth, caps locks, and have gone full Hannity. But there are some that I know are looking at it and they're saying the same thing that we keep hearing. There are only two choices. I have to pick one. This is the one I'm picking. Those aren't the people that I'm talking about. The ones that I'm talking about are the ones that from day one have bought into his crap and bought into his lies, and some of them have even pushed it knowing they were lies. And yes, I'm looking at you, Hannity, because you probably know him better than anybody in the world, because you've been friends with him for a very long time. You know it, I know it, he knows it. And you knew he was lying. You knew he was lying, and I could see it back when I was still watching your show when he first started coming on, because he would stumble and you would put words in his mouth to correct him before he said something completely stupid. You've been his handler on your show for over a year. You have basically put your hand in his rear end and told him what to say like a puppet, because if he couldn't do it, you corrected him and said, "That's really what you mean, isn't it, Mr. Trump?" No, that's not what he meant. He doesn't give a damn about your penny plan. He doesn't give a damn about all of Sean Hannity's other great ideas that Sean Hannity has been spouting off at the mouth about for the last 10 years. He doesn't care about any of those things, so quit putting them in his mouth. Because the simple fact of the matter is, the only person Trump cares about is Trump. He has been trying to do this since the 80s. He did it first by trying to form a new party. It blew up in his face. He did it again by floating it as an idea to turn it into nothing but publicity, and then backed off of it when he realized he got really what he wanted, which was just publicity out of the deal. And I'm pretty sure that's part of what he's working on right now, because don't forget, Trump TV is coming. It's coming soon. It will be here before you know it. And then we're going to have a sitting president who has a TV network named after him. I'm kind of curious as to how that's going to work, because everybody talks about separation of church and state. How about separation of news and state?
How about separation of international business sides, business holdings and state? He has international business holdings and deals, and he's going to be president.
And
he has deals with Russia, China, Bangladesh. I mean, he has deals with all of these countries, business deals, having stuff made and everything else. And he's going to be president? Really?
And you don't think he's going to be using the influence?
That makes the Clinton Foundation look like nothing, to be honest with you. But nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it at all.
Because to them it doesn't matter, because he's the good guy. That's the part that I don't understand. I mean, like I was telling somebody the other day, there has been a talk show host that actually does radio and TV that I've been talking back and forth on Twitter for days. And his final response to me before I finally just said, look, this has been fun. We've been doing it for like 2 days, but I really have work I need to get done. And he's like, look, to me, it's not as easy as right or wrong anymore because I don't agree with a lot of things from either candidate. But at this point, what I'm looking at is which one of the two is theoretically the less dark. And the first thing that came to mind when he said that is truly where we are right now. There isn't anybody in the political spectrum right now that, to use the old black and white Western motif, there's nobody in the white hat anymore. You can't just look and say, nope, that's the good guy, and that's who we need to be. That's who we need to be fighting for. Nobody's able to do that anymore. Everybody's got their hands dirty in one way or the other. Everybody's got themselves hip deep into one special interest group or another, and I'm not trying to deny any of that. But you're talking about a man who has connections in Russia and China and all of these other countries that is going to have the ability to make himself stronger by wielding the power of the most powerful nation on earth. And if you don't think that's why he's doing this, then you're not paying attention. That's why he's pandering to everyone that he can.
Absolutely.
Second. System. Okay, back to normal now. There for a second I sounded like a robot in my ear. I have no idea what it sounded like for folks listening in the chat room, so I apologize.
You sounded like a robot in my ear, too.
I think we overloaded the system. Either that or the NSA is currently trying to hack into my computer. Even odds on both at this point.
Yeah,
all right.
He's doing this for himself, and nobody realizes it. That's the problem.
Oh, well, I mean, the thing about it is, I think people could notice it. I think they could. And again, I'm not trying to insult anyone, but the problem with us is with elections, once we've made our mind up, it literally is a Pavlovian response. Once you've picked a side, you can't back away from it. You keep getting sucked further and further into it. And I know this because I've been there, and that's why I'm watching all my friends do it now that are like, well, I don't feel like I have a choice. And some of them, and no, I'm not talking about anybody who's listening right now, so please do not blow a gasket, because I know there are some of you that always think I'm talking about you, and I promise I'm not. But there are a couple of them that have gone full-on Trumpkin. I mean, outright attacks of people because they won't vote for Trump. And that's the scary thing, is the more these people get sucked in and listen to the things that side of the argument says, the more I've seen more and more of them become more and more angry and less rational. And it really is kind of scary because we were joking about the T virus about 14 months ago. It's not really much of a joke anymore because it honestly kind of reminds me of a virus because it slowly kind of seems to take over time. And the people that dive in and keep staying in and do nothing but run in Trumpkin circles eventually sound a lot like Lord Cheesy Poof, a la Sean Hannity when he's talking about his brown belt. Now he's going to mess you up if you don't vote for Trump.
Yeah, it's Hannity, boy. I really thought I'd see a backpedal from him. I don't see a backpedal. He's really just defending himself, and he's got to know what he's done. He's got to know that if Trump wins, maybe he gets 4 more years, but his career is over. It's over. It's done. 4 more years, maybe. If Trump loses, Fox is going to be shook up. It's already. Why do you think Greta left? Greta sees it. She knows that all of the posturing she did for Trump has screwed her. That's why she left. She wanted to literally save something. She'll go back and do her lawyer thing. She's not going to get another job in broadcasting.
I wouldn't be so sure. If Trump TV launches, she might wind up over there. But we are officially out of time, and I remembered that you said you're about to go on with Jason in a few minutes, so we should probably wrap up.
Oh, that's just, I'm calling in. I'm not co-hosting tonight. I'm a call-in tonight.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, either way, we're officially at the top of the hour anyway, so why don't you remind folks where it is that they can interact with you when you're not on air with me?
I'm at 911G_fan on Twitter. And I do a show with Jason Taylor on Wednesday nights, and that's at hanamericaradio.com. And he's doing a one-off show with, I'm guessing, Jamie and Six and Francis, who's Libertarian Latino, tonight at midnight. And I'm just going to call in and be a guest. I'm not going to be a co-host tonight.
All right. Well, you have fun with that. All right, folks. I am Rick Robinson, one of the partners and the general manager for KLNRradio.com or KLRNradio.com. Somehow I still always manage to say that wrong when I get in a hurry. And also I do 4 shows a week around these parts. Well, actually about 9 shows a week technically. 5 days a week, America Off the Rails from 11 to 2, 11 a.m., 2 p.m. Central. Also do Jen and Rick on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. Then we do this one right here, Robinson and Wright, at 11 p.m. Eastern. And then I will be back with you live tomorrow morning on Finding Common Ground at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then, of course, after that, I produce both the Conservative Curmudgeon, which is heard here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and also produce Opinion Nation, the only liberal that's hung out with us long enough to still not only help me co-host Finding Common Ground, but also does a show of his own, who actually has a former NSA agent on with him tomorrow. So, liberal or not, I think that could be a fun show to listen to. But on that note, folks, we are out. We'll be back with you next week, and I'll be back with you before you know it, because I got to do this again in less than 12 hours. And then, of course, I'll be back with you on Monday. Take care. God bless. And remember, if you are either I'm voting for him because I don't have a choice, or you're voting for him because you feel like he's the only choice left, when we're talking about Trump supporters, we're not talking about you. Quit taking it so personally. We'll be back later. Take care. God bless. Good night.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them. Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks. Well, happy Saturday morning. It is just a few minutes past the hour. Here listening to Finding Common Ground on KLRNradio.com. And I am one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson, and I'm joined today by Mr. Bryce Robbins, who is now officially a college student that has been too busy to show up for work the last couple of weekends. Now I'm just busting your balls, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? And it was only 1 week. I was so busy.
No, it was two.
It was two?
Yeah, it wasn't two in a row, but there have been two recently.
Oh, okay. All right, no, I've been good. Catching a little sickness right now, but I've been good. Just been, I guess I haven't been paying attention too much to the news. I thought I have because you just told me about Donald Trump, apparently now acknowledging climate change. I mean, that's still not what I want, but it's closer than it was before.
Well, I mean, like I said off air, you've got to be feeling pretty good right now, though, because both front runners at this point are acknowledging that climate change is actually a thing, because, you know, not a few short months ago, Donald Trump was calling it a Chinese hoax, which I thought was, even though I'm not a climate change supporter, I still thought was a little nuts. We have Hillary Clinton, who has now adopted Bernie Sanders' free college plan, for the most part. We had Donald Trump on the Dr. Oz show the other day talking about how we needed to expand Medicaid. We have him now talking about a 6-week, not a 12-week paid maternity program. All of the conservative pundits, when Bernie suggested the 12-week program, were like, oh my God, how are we going to pay for it? Oh, Trump said 6 weeks? Yeah, we're good with that. Then we have the earned income credit for childcare, which when Bernie suggested much the same thing, everybody was like, huh? But now Trump said it, and they're like, yay! And I'm just thinking, holy crap, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are now both one and the same under the banner of the ice cream party, because we're going to give everybody whatever the hell they think they want to make sure we get elected. Who cares? Fun times, fun times.
Well, I have a couple things to say to that. One, with your first statement, I am not a supporter of climate change. I think that in itself makes no sense, because it's not like one supports or doesn't support the idea of climate change. You either accept the scientific suggestion that climate change is real, or you don't believe in what the scientific suggestion states, therefore not believing the scientists. The overarching consensus. It's not really
I believe in climate change, just not the way you believe in climate change. Yes, the climate changes. It is called weather.
Yes, but scientists suggest that, overarchingly suggest that man contributes to it dramatically.
And how much money has the climate change industry made off of those scientists, and how much money have they gotten in return?
And how much money has the fossil fuel industry gotten for... I mean, that makes no sense. In fact...
No, it makes perfect sense, because the simple fact of the matter is the truth is somewhere in the middle. The climate change folks are too far on one side. The fossil fuel folks are too far on the other. Simple fact of the matter is what we need to do is put all the BS to bed and realize that we need to do what we can to make sure that we're better stewards for our planet. If that means slowly starting to move away from fossil fuels, I'm okay with that. But let's find a way to do it that makes sense, because forcing all of these things down our throats that don't work, that are super expensive, that wind up being government supported and funded, and then makes it even more expensive. Because back to Economy 101, folks, and Civics 101, what happens when the government starts paying for crap? It gets more and more and more expensive. Case in point, all of the grants and everything for college drive up the price of college admissions every year, because the folks that are running the colleges are like, hey, these kids are getting over half the money from the government to pay for tuition, so that means we should be able to raise prices more. Look at the same thing that Congress does every year when they go through the budget. $50,000 for hammers, $30,000 for toilet seats. Why? Because the government's going to pay for it, so why the hell not? The problem is, folks, we're running out of money. So we can keep talking about all these things and all these different government programs that are supposed to make everything better for everybody, or we can come to the realization that the bottom line point is we really only have one planet, so let's stop fighting about it and actually figure out a way to fix it that is cost effective and better for everybody. Because even the people like me that are saying, hey, this climate change thing, probably not nearly as big of a deal as everybody's trying to make it out to be, are not saying that we should be outside burning tires and freaking lighting forests on fire. We're just saying, can we kind of ratchet down all the government BS over climate change?
Well, I mean, I just want to add in there, I don't think it's a pick between the economy and the environment. I think that's something that's just not necessarily true. And I think, there's multiple reasons why conservatives tend to believe that climate change is not real when the overarching scientific community does. And I think a lot of it has to do with the recession. When people saw, all their money go away, the issue of the country became more about fixing our economy than fixing the environment. And if you can recall, when An Inconvenient Truth came out, actually, in 2006, Fox News actually gave it a comment and said that everybody should go watch it. Climate change, I don't think, was a partisan issue. Even George Bush said in 2000, that he would start to limit CO2 emissions, something that Republicans wouldn't even touch today.
I understand all of that, Bryce, but you're missing the point. How much have we already done for climate change? How much more do we ourselves have to do when the rest of the country is looking at us going, screw you, man, I'm making money over here. Look at China. They have zero emission laws. Zero. So how exactly are we? We keep talking about how we can't be the military police of the world. Now all of a sudden we're supposed to be the single country that changes climate change for everybody, because we're going to overregulate ourselves to death to make sure that our air stays clean. So when it blows over to China, we're great. But what happens when China's air blows over here? Because this is the part that nobody's talking about, Bryce. This is an enclosed system. These things that are in other countries are going to come here. they're going to come here. So no matter what we do, we're not going to be able to fix the climate single-handedly, and we're not going to be able to stop all these supposed man-made CO2 emissions issues.
Well, that's not true again, because if you look at, there was an essay recently written, actually it was a couple years back, I believe it was in Time, or it was in some magazine, and they talk about some scientists who decided to adjust our CO2 emission output. So instead of saying China produces 100, whatever is of CO2 and the United States produces 50, he actually adjusted the numbers and said, instead of saying the producer will get the label of CO2 emissions, we're going to give that label to the consumer. So they took all the CO2 emissions that Chinese factories are producing that is then consumed by the United States and gave the CO2 emissions to the United States. It actually turns out that the United States and Europe still lead the way in fossil fuel emissions with our consumption rates. So when we were really looking at who needs to take the stand in fighting climate change, the United States absolutely needs to lead the way. Europe needs to lead the way. China still needs to lead the way as well.
So hang on, folks. Hang on. Just to make sure we're clear, at this point, these guys wrote an essay to prove their point by cooking the books. Because you can't give the CO2 emissions to the consumer, because we're not the ones that are producing the goods at this point, Bryce. We barely make anything at all in this country anymore. So true. So BS. What do? We make Japanese cars and trucks now. Ford's moving to Mexico.
We have 5% of the population. We have 5% of the population and are the second largest producer of CO2 emissions. And that's 5%
yeah, but that's using that same cookbook mentality that you were talking about a second ago. When
books, they're just blatant facts.
It's BS, dude. You can't. Because you're using the same mentality that the stupid idiot that was high that wrote the essay wrote, that said we should give the carbon emissions to the people that are buying the things from China because it's their fault that they're using so much CO2. That's BS, and you know it. That is
really.
Yes, it is.
I don't see how that's BS. That's just a way of looking at it.
No, it's a skewed fact. It's not even the truth, man. And the fact that you keep spouting all this stuff that you know in your heart is not true really annoys me.
I know in my heart that there's a problem that humans are drastically pumping CO2 emissions into the atmosphere that is thickening our atmosphere, that is, as a result, not allowing sunlight to escape, which is bouncing off of our atmosphere, hitting back to the Earth, and
the word you're looking for was ionosphere, genius.
Sure. I mean, I just don't see how that's not a believable thing. And we see more extreme weather events. We see, all of these things happening around us, and we say, oh, no, don't be silly.
More extreme weather events. What the hell are you even talking about right now? We've only been tracking weather now for about 120 years. So, things are cyclic. Look, you and I are never going to agree on climate change, because I think it is a non-issue. Because hey, genius, according to the godfather of climate change, we weren't supposed to have any icebergs in the North Pole anymore by now.
That's not true. He said in 50 years from now.
No. He specifically said in 2015 the polar caps will be gone. What are we now, 2016? Still lots of polar caps. Where'd they go?
I challenge you to that quote, because I just watched An Inconvenient Truth a couple days ago, and he said in around 50 years from 2006. So I'm just saying. And also, I challenge you to one statistic here that I want you to tell me. The world has never surpassed 300 parts per million of CO2 in its atmosphere, and we can date this back 800,000 years through ice core dating in the Arctic, because bubbles of atmosphere get trapped in the ice, and they can, however they do it, with their isotope whatever, figure out what made up the atmosphere at the time. And they could tell us that the world's atmosphere of carbon never surpassed 300 parts per million. We are now at 400 parts per million. And this all of a sudden started around the Industrial Revolution, if you look at the charts. Are we just going to state, oh, that's just a silly coincidence? Or should we start to be alarmed? And I think the big problem is that if you look at the amount of scientists who say climate change is real, and then look at the media and their pundits who aren't even, officials, who aren't even scientists, who debate on climate change with no legitimacy behind them, I think we should go with what the scientists say. And you can give the argument, oh, the numbers are cooked, the books are lying, but that's really a straw man argument. I never made that argument, and that's a little ridiculous.
No, I made that argument. I made that argument because you're talking about somebody who had the bright idea of, well, we should blame the people that are buying the products for the carbon emissions that China's putting out. So therefore, even though we're the ones that are over-regulating ourselves basically to extinction, we're still the largest producers of carbon dioxide on the planet because we're buying all of China's stuff. That is BS, and you know it. China would look. It doesn't matter at this point. So basically, what you're saying is what we need to do, because we've already gotten to the point where we have this EPA, which is a mammoth, is doing nothing but devouring everything that it can to continue to justify itself. We already get to the point where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of extra dollars spent on vehicles that don't really accomplish much of anything anymore because we've already gotten our emissions about as low as they're going to be able to get using the stuff that we have right now, but we still have to keep making all of these changes to get it just that much lower, which continues to increase the cost of an overall vehicle. So what you're saying is at this point, the only way the U.S. could actually finally start doing something about climate change is to let Mexico buy all of China's shit.
That's no. No. In the circular logic of that essay that you keep talking about, that is exactly it. Because if we're going to be blamed for the products that we buy, not for the country that's producing them, then the best thing that we could do for the climate change to fix the numbers is to let somebody else buy all of China's stuff, not us. Because then they'll be the second larger producer of CO2 because it's our fault because we buy their stuff. In that essay, he's simply just attaching who consumes the product.
Exactly. My point.
I don't have a problem with that, just for a study to tell you that the United States still is a very large producer of CO2 emissions. And even without that study, we're still by far the second largest producer of CO2 emissions. India doesn't even come close to second place, and China's in first place. So no matter how you slice it or dice it, you're either first or second, and neither is really that good. What we really need to focus on is, yes, regulation. Because like you said,
how much more regulated can stuff get, Bryce? How much more regulation do we need? At this point,
let's get rid of styrofoam. Let's get rid of coal. Let's get rid of all the things that are really fucking bad for the planet.
Let's get rid of coal. Let's get rid of coal. Yeah. What are you going to replace it with, genius?
Oh, well, first of all, we can look at... Well, first off, let's just start this argument off by noting
No. Answer my question. What are you going to replace it with? It was an easy question. Don't start shifting. What are you going to replace it with?
You can replace it with next-generation nuclear power plants. You can replace it with solar panels. You can replace
so we're all going to glow in the dark.
I'm sorry?
Next-generation nuclear power plants. That's your answer?
That's one of them. I mean, look at thorium nuclear power plants. We have the third largest thorium reserves in the world, and we don't even touch them. That could create millions of jobs, mining thorium and digging it up. And that type of nuclear power plant could recycle itself. I mean, these are the new scientific ideas of the future that just simply aren't being funded.
So hang on. So wait, hang on. So instead of strip mining coal and ruining the environment, we're going to be strip mining thorium because it's able to be used as a pretty much infinite energy source. Then we're going to be building these big behemoth power plants that are going to be sitting about 5 miles probably from where I live, because I live out in the middle of nowhere, and God knows that's where they're going to put them all. But hey, that's the best thing that's the best thing to do. Let's not forget all of this newfound stuff about wind energy and how we need to be moving away from a lot of things and moving back to putting windmill farms up and everything else. And yet, the wind farms are killing hundreds and thousands of birds every year. Because, hey, it's green energy, right? Who cares if the birds die? But these are the same people that are talking about the fact that, hey, we're killing birds with fossil fuels.
Actually, I mean, first of all, with the nuclear power plant, if you look it up, it's called thorium liquid fluoride thorium.
Please don't assume that, hey, first of all, if you're explaining it to the listeners, that's great, but please don't assume that I don't know what you're talking about, because we've only been doing this now for over a year.
No, I'm going to explain it to everybody. And these are supposedly, I mean, we've already had thorium reactors in this country in the 1960s, but now they are still really underfunded. In fact, India is building the first modern prototype of that. India is leading the way, and then China is going to be soon too. Because this is supposedly the energy of the future. The United States has a lot of thorium. And, you know, you even heard New York governor, whose name escapes my mind, who was running for president recently, just mentioned it. George Pataki even mentioned it on the debate stage. So it's really something we need to take a look at, because it could be the safest form of nuclear power we could ever have. As for wind and solar panels, well, solar energy already employs more people than the coal industry, and I think that solar installation is a job that you could relatively easy give training to people in the coal industry for, installation around their part of the world, and in homes around their part of the world. Wind turbines, actually. I mean, yes, I've heard quotes that they kill birds, but I mean, that doesn't mean you can't expand on the technology and you can't make it better. I mean, there are so many things that we could do, and I'm not saying that we should stop at solar panels or wind turbines the way they are and just keep investing in those. I think maybe we should start investing in the future, the evolution of those technologies. I think actually what Texas does is pretty admirable. They've seen clean energy go up. Why? Because they give their people, their citizens, a choice where their energy comes from. And you can pick if you want your energy to come from wind power, coal, oil, whatever, natural gas. And a lot more people now are picking that they want their energy to come from clean energy because they feel morally responsible when given the choice. When not given the choice, I guess they plead apathy. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, it must have come from there, and that's the only place I could get it from. Well, now you know it's not. And actually, they've seen their CO2 emissions are dropping, and they've seen that clean energy, the demand for it is going up.
So wait, hang on. Don't gloss over this for a second, because I got to point something out. First of all, in the overall voting scheme of things, what color is Texas?
Well, it's red turning purple.
But first part, what was that again?
Red. Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay. So, and how did they fix it? By government mandate or by giving their citizens a choice?
I mean, it's a little bit of both right there.
No. Answer the question. The predominant way they fixed it, was it by government mandate or by choice?
Oh, by choice, by people's moral decisions.
So again, back to what I've been talking about this entire time. I'm not telling you that I disagree with the overall premise of climate change. I disagree with the way it's being handled. I also don't think that it's being properly looked at, because I think a lot of the data that the scientists use are inflated. Because again, the same thing I've been telling you since the day you started it with us, you need to seriously look at where these people that are doing these studies are getting funded, because it's not about the truth anymore, Bryce. It's about funding. And they're going to sell the results that whoever gave them the money to start the study actually wants, because if not, they're not going to get paid. That's been my problem with all these scientific studies on everything for a long time. Because look at all of these different drug things that come out, and they're like, oh, the FDA said this is safe, all these drug studies say it's great. 10 years later, do you or is anyone you know never use fen, blah, 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 suffering from heartburn, and if you have or you know someone who has, you may be eligible for millions of dollars. Why?
Right, those are false equivalents, though.
No, they're not. No, it's not. It's the same damn thing, Bryce. Studies.
There were 10,000 scientific papers. Of those, 97% that were analyzed confirm that climate change is a man-driven problem. If we're going to assume that all the crackpots at NASA, at the UN, at X, Y, and Z Science Association are just...
Bryce, you're missing the point, Bryce.
I'm saying that they're cooking the books, but there's no evidence to suggest ever that they've been cooking books. There's none.
Why not? Why not? Because, look, the one thing this election cycle has taught me is both sides are interested in control. Nothing more than control. They will tell you whatever they need to hear to get you to pull the lever, even if it means one side runs fully to the left and the other side moves a little bit to the right and makes themselves start sounding like the Patriots. So that's my point, Bryce. These people from the top to the bottom tell us whatever we need to hear to maintain control. And they do it by fear, anger, hatred, and anything else they can find. And one of the ways they found to do it is by screaming, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world. They've been doing it since the 60s. This climate change thing that everybody's talking about now is not anything new. At first it was global cooling, then it was global warming, then they didn't have any way to explain it because...
Never global cooling. That's an argument that Rod Eccles made, and there's never been a thing of global cooling. One scientist at NASA
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? I grew up in the era of global cooling. I watched all the videos, the little film strips they made us watch in school over global cooling. So don't tell me there's never been a thing about global cooling. And then global cooling.
There was one study in the 1970s that suggested...
And you know what? The point you're missing, Bryce, is they took that one study and they ran with it. So global cooling became a countrywide thing. They were talking about it on the news. They were talking about it in TV shows. They were talking about it at school. So it doesn't matter how many studies there were, because the simple fact of the matter is it became a buzzword and it became a talking point.
That matters. If one person made a mistake and found out there was global cooling with false science, but then 10,000 people find out that there's climate change and the planet's getting warmer.
You're missing the point. You are.
That is the point.
No, you're missing the point that I'm trying to make here. We have been being led around by our nose for decades in response to fear, because somebody took a study and they made it a thing, and then that didn't work. So they did a bunch of other studies, and then they made it a new thing, and then that didn't fit the model. So they did a bunch of other studies, and they made it a new thing. And I'm not disagreeing with the fact that we need to take care of our planet, but can we stop being so damn fearful and actually try to fix it instead of using it as a political football?
So let's talk about Obama then. Then is he not doing a really excellent job? Because it seems that he's been the most aggressive president on climate change. He's been doing exactly what you said. He's been stopping carbon emissions. He's been making our country more efficient.
He's been doing it through government mandate, Bryce. There's a right way to do these things, and there's a wrong way to do these things. And forcing it down people's throats instead of giving them the option to make choices is the wrong way to do it. That was the point I tried to make when we were backing up talking about Texas. If there is anything that Texas should have taught us, it's time to start giving people choices at the local and state level so they can make the decisions that best fit with their needs and their wants. The problem is we have too many states where energy is controlled by monopoly. We have too many states where people can't make choices because, like my state, I think there's maybe five energy companies within the entire state of Oklahoma. You know what? They're all basically gerrymandered. One can have service one place, one can have service another, one can have service in one region, one can have service in the other, but never the five shall meet. So why can't we start giving people legitimate actual choices and let the market start solving the problems just like they've done in Texas, instead of overregulation and government mandate? Because you just said it yourself. What Texas is doing is working. So why can't we take what Texas is doing and start using it as a base model for the remainder of the states and allow them to actually find ways to do much the same thing so that we can have the consumers figuring out how best to deal with climate change, not the government ramming it down our throats, because I still don't think it is anything like it has been made out to be in these studies, because again, the government rules under fear, anger, and hatred. That's what they've been doing now for decades. It's what they've continued to do, and now they're not even trying to hide it anymore. And the only thing that I've ever said that asked you to do is, regardless of the number of studies that you're citing, go all the way back and figure out who actually funded them and figure out what their motives were. Because there is no truth in studies anymore, Bryce. It's about money, and it's about who's going to make money off of the studies. It's the same in this industry, because climate change is officially an industry now, just as it is in the pharmaceutical industry. And that's the truth of it, and that's what we need to, that's why we need to stop arguing about it. We need to stop trying to label it and just realize that Americans need to take care of the American climate and leave the rest of the world to figure out the rest of it on their own. But we don't need to do it by over-regulation and overreach by government, because it's happening more and more and more and more. So do I disagree with your premise about the nuclear plants? No, not on its face. But let's leave it up to the states to decide whether they want some big hulking nuclear power plant somewhere in their vicinity. If they want wind power, fine, let's give them that option. If they want to start using another electric company that's 100 miles away but doesn't have access to the same lines that everybody uses, let's start changing that. There are ways we can fix this without taking it all the way to the federal level, and that's what I'm talking about, because we keep giving federal control away inch by inch, mile by mile, and every time we do, it bites us right square in the ass.
Well, Rick, the one reason that I agree with a lot of what you said, but what I do disagree with is that our air and our water are not state issues. The water in New York flows into New Jersey, flows into wherever. Okay? The waters are not just in one state. The air does not just stay in California. That air in California blows over to Oklahoma.
Hang on. Wasn't that the same argument I was making about Chinese air coming over here, but somehow it's our fault because we're the ones buying their stuff? Anyway, we got to take a break, so I don't mean to cut you off.
needs to be a global issue, and that's why that the states should actually surrender that to the federal government, because it's not just one issue.
No. They shouldn't. The states should be allowed to make their decisions first, and then the government should be there to pick up the slack if the states won't do some of the things that need to happen.
That's where we disagree.
Well, we're always going to disagree because you think the world's coming to an end and we're all going to be floating around with polar bears with waders on because the whole country's going to be underwater soon. But we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them. Republicans and Democrats.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them. Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. We spent most of the show arguing about a topic that I'm not sure why we keep bringing it up, because even though it's fun and it's an entertaining argument, we're just never, ever, ever going to be able to find common ground on that one. Because, too many people on my side of the argument don't even want to acknowledge the fact that we should be taking better care of the planet. Too many people on his side of the argument say that's not enough. So there's no winning on that one, depending on what side of the argument you're on. Something that we can agree on is the Libertarian Party and the fact that they actually had a shot this year, and they keep continuing to shoot themselves in the foot. I know Bryce himself wasn't a supporter of Austin Peterson. I happen to have been. I think he probably would have been one of the better choices for the Libertarian Party, because he would have been able to reach a lot of the disenfranchised conservatives. Libertarians, however, didn't necessarily want us disenfranchised conservatives because they were afraid they would eventually just become another conservative party. Well, oddly enough, they avoided conservatives, and now they basically are sounding more and more like the Democrats, much like the Democratic Party themselves, and now even the Republican Party. So we have a Democrat running the Republican Party. We have a Democrat with socialist leanings running the Democratic Party, and we have a straight-up Democrat running the Libertarian Party. Fun times, fun times. Pick one. No matter which one you pick, you still get a Democrat. Bryce, you should be feeling really good right now. I know I keep saying that, but
I mean, I really don't, but, look, I agree with a lot of what Hillary Clinton's saying now, but I don't know if that's what she means. I hope it is.
It's not. It's not. Just to make sure we're clear, it's not. I don't necessarily believe a lot of what Donald Trump is saying, and I've been telling people that, but let me tell you why, even though I know that he's only pandering for votes, that I'm not willing to pull the lever for the guy. And it doesn't have in this instance, it doesn't have anything to do with him being crazy and staying unstable, all the things that I've been saying now for months. It has to do with the fact that the one thing that Bernie Sanders said he was going to do, that he's actually managed to do, is change the political discourse, change the conversation. We now have three major parties, well, two major parties and a minor party, that are all basically talking about the same things. They're talking about the same government programs, the same government issues, and they're all pretty much on the same page. So Bernie Sanders has done exactly what he said he was going to do. But that's the reason why, in my opinion, Donald Trump cannot be the one to win the election, because if he does, the face of the Republican Party will be changed for forever, and we will have gone from Democrat light, like a lot of us have been saying they've been for the last 8 to 12 years, to complete full-on Democrats, because at this point there's no daylight between the two parties, and there's barely any daylight between them and the Libertarians. So if we don't do something to drastically change the direction, at this point everything that we've been afraid was going to happen is going to happen. They're all going to start running as the ice cream party, because that's what's working. Because the more things they offer to give away, the more people pay attention. Look at how much further Trump finally is coming up into the polls now that he's offering to give away the farm. He's talking about increasing government spending in the military. He's talking about expanding Medicaid, which is going to mean increased spending. He's talking about earned income credit for child care, which is going to mean increased government spending, because that is, in essence, redistribution. You're taking money that other people have paid into taxes and giving it out to other people to reimburse them for the cost of their daycare services. He's talking about paid medical leave, which was not supposed to be a mandate, but if you read it really closely, it does specifically state that if the employers don't find a way to offer it, the government's going to make them offer it, which in and of itself is a mandate by the government, which is, again, going to raise prices, cause issues. It's going to put a big damper on small business, which is a lot of what it's going to finish what Obamacare started. Because small business in this country right now is nearly impossible. I know this because I'm trying to run a small business, and I'm trying to build a small business past the point of it being something that makes me maybe $2,000 or $3,000 a year if I'm lucky, which is all I get from this right now, and that's on a good year. Because it's almost impossible now to run a small business with all of the different government regulations and different things that you have to comply with, and now they're making it even worse, or they're going to. So the reason that one of the main reasons I've been opposed to Donald Trump for a very long time is, one, he's a Democrat. He can tell me he's not all he wants. Two, his policy choices, now that he's having a chance to make them and actually people are starting to listen to them, proves to me that he's a Democrat, and he's the last thing the Republican Party needed, Because we used to be the opposition party, now we're just the get along party. Because God forbid we ever win an election by giving people exactly what we used to make fun of the Democrats for giving people. And somehow we're supposed to do this while we're still projected to be $20 trillion in debt here pretty quickly. Yay, fun times.
I just want to say, though, I think when people like Rush Limbaugh and, Michelle Bachmann say, oh, this is the last election, this is the last election, this is the end of the world, I think what they really mean is this is the last election where the Republican Party can win under their same message.
No. They've already changed the message. The Republican Party will never win again under its own old message. We've now started picking up Democratic talking points and political planks and running with them in the hopes of being able to sway new voters. The Democratic Party is in shambles, I'll admit, and was a mess, but the Republican Party is gone on its face. It's been corrupted. It's been assumed by a very angry faction of the Republican Party and some actual angry Democrats that have now come over and have decided to vote for Trump, and they have become on its face a group called the alt-right. The thing that people keep assuming, because they have the title alt-right, is that it was all coming from the right. This is not true. These are the angry, bitter racists that were within both parties that everybody assumed were gone, and now they're not, and now they've been given a voice, and now we have the Democratic Party with ties to BLM, which is now basically calling for self-segregation. I mean, at this point, the political system as we know it is almost done. I'm not sure what's going to wind up replacing it. I'm not sure if we'll get one more election out of it past this, maybe two, before something drastic happens. Because if we don't find a way to put common sense back on the playing field, we're probably within 8 years away from a race war. Because nobody's talking about the things that really matter anymore, because we're too busy being angry with each other over things that happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
I don't think that not all the people in Black Lives Matter, or even most of them, are angry about what happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I think they're a little upset about what's happening now.
Really? Then how come every single one of them that gets a voice and gets a microphone starts talking about reparations, starts talking about slavery? That's my point, Bryce. It may not be all of them, but the ones that have a chance to actually stand up and say something keep saying the same things over and over again. Just like the alt-right, who have a chance to be able to actually say something and give a voice to their new movement, talk about how bad the Jews are, and talk about how whites are the only race that matters. The point
I would focus not on these hate groups or on these segregationists or these radicals, but I would focus more on the fact that the Republican Party will never win again because Donald Trump is starting to swing that, but they're opposed to gay marriage, or at least they've given off that persona. They're just a bunch of, what at least is perceived to be old white religious people. And that is not a turn on for the young voter, for the new voter. They want to vote for somebody who they think is going to bring change. And I'm not saying whether or not Obama has. I mean, I think Obama's done an excellent job for the economy, but what you can say
hang on. An excellent job for the economy? We have a GDP of 2% right now. How is that an excellent job for the economy? We have more people on food stamps today than we had in 2000. How is that an excellent job for the economy?
Did I go down the numbers? We have the lowest poverty rate since 1968. He's added 10 million jobs. He came in during one of the biggest deficits in this country.
Hang on. The lowest poverty rate since 1968. Are you kidding me right now? That's like saying that we have the lowest unemployment rate since 1968. The difference is, Bryce, they've changed the calculations. They've changed the game by changing the numbers. That's the same point I've been trying to make to you about all these climate change studies that you keep wanting to spout. These people keep changing the game by changing the numbers, and we keep going along with the change of the numbers. If we put the chronically underemployed or unemployed back into the employment equation, we would have the lowest employment rate probably since the Great Depression. But nobody wants to talk about that because, they're just not looking for work anymore, so they've given up. So we shouldn't count them as unemployed anymore. We should just stop looking at those people. No, that's not true because they're not working.
This is according to the LA Times, and I mean, if you're just going to continuously
that's a great source. The LA Times, there's a good place to be quoting.
They're just a source that's carrying it. I mean, I'm sure it's probably from the Associated Press, but stating that real median household incomes are back up. Since the lowest since 1999, they're now at $56,000 for the median income in America. And in 2014, it was only $53,000. So, and in the recession is when it starts to go down. So that's a good thing. Again,
where are they getting the data from, Bryce? You're missing the point. If you're going to keep taking articles on face value, then you're never actually going to find out the truth. That's been my point to you now for nearly 15 months. We have been being played. The government, regardless of who's got what letter behind their name, has been telling us whatever we needed to hear to keep us safe, happy, healthy, and going to work every day.
These statistics come from the United States Census Bureau. It says that the typical U.S. household income rose 5.2% in 2015. And also they're going on later to say that it's the lowest poverty rate since 1968 under Lyndon B. Johnson. So, those are two things, thanks Obama.
Yeah, and if I actually believe the numbers, I might be right there with you, but I don't because
the buying power of the average worker's weekly paycheck has gone up 4.4% under Obama. Oil imports are down 53%, and solar and wind power have quadrupled. I think that's a cool number. And it's a good thing that oil has been lower on imports because we're producing more here at home, creating more American jobs. The home ownership rate has dropped by 4%, so that's not such a great thing. I'm just reading off some statistics here. And yes, you're right. The number of Americans on food stamps is up actually 36%. So that's not necessarily a good thing either. But you also look at illegal immigration, something else that affects the economy, has actually dropped 53% under Obama. So I don't know why the hard right is so up in arms. I mean, you really have to give Obama a round of applause for some of the policies he's implemented and also continued at the border that have decreased illegal immigration.
Oh my God. Yeah, let's give Obama a round of applause for some of the great things that he's done, when if he would have actually gotten out of the way, we probably would have seen one of the best recoveries ever, but instead we've limped along and actually had, at certain points in time, some of our biggest companies in the country that have been leading the way economically reporting negative numbers for the first time since 1969. So yeah, he's doing a really great and wonderful job. So yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Do you want to start or should I?
Okay, ready? So jobs are up by 10 million. We have a low unemployment rate.
Hey. Jobs are up by, hang on. Jobs are up by 10 million. Did they happen to mention whether those are full-time or part-time jobs?
It's just employment.
Exactly my point. Because I bet if they actually gave you the number, yeah, jobs are probably up by about 10 million. They're probably low-skilled, low-paying, and part-time.
How about the fact that the United States trade deficit is down 24%, something that neither Reagan nor Bush even touched? We have lower petroleum imports.
Where are they getting that number? That's my point. You're citing a lot of statistics, and but you're missing the point. Does the sources that you're citing actually tell you where they're getting this data, or are they just pulling it out of their ass?
I mean, from what it looks like, this is from the United States Census Bureau. This is also from the Bureau of Labor Management.
Because our government's never lied to us before.
I mean, if you're not going to take the statistics from the government...
Look, Bryce, hang on. You're missing the point. Does everybody remember back in 1999, 2000, when everybody was talking about how great the economy was under the Clintons, and how they started putting out all these papers and stories and statistics that showed that it was some of the best economic times we'd ever had. And then as soon as a Republican took office, all of a sudden we had Enron, because it turns out that they were propping up that company for about 6 to 9 months, not telling anybody how bad it was, which was a real shocker to the already starting to struggle economy that nobody was talking about.
Enron was a private company.
Yeah, except
that was not the government doing.
Yes, it was. Go look it up yourself. I'm done doing your homework. You're an adult now. Go look it up.
I mean, I understand that, and I actually have researched Enron, the energy company. I've researched it. I watched the movie The Smartest Man in the Room. and because very corrupt system.
Because movies teach you everything. Bryce, you're missing the point. Enron was knee deep into the government at the time that the Clintons were in the White House, and the simple fact of the matter was they kept doctoring reports because of how knee deep into the government that company was, that kept limping along the U.S. economy and creating a false dichotomy that the economy was actually doing great when in essence it was actually really already starting to decline. And that's been my point all along. You're taking all of these things on face value in an election year, no less, talking about what a great job the economy's doing when we see it on the street every day that it's not. They can tell you, they can give you numbers all day long to support their claims because it's really easy to pull numbers out of the air and say, well, look how much better we're doing here. No, it's not, Bryce. You forget what I do for a living. I talk to people all day long that have lost their jobs.
Rick, that's exactly what Newt Gingrich said on an interview in CNN. He said he talked about shootings in Chicago, and he talked about deaths in pockets in America, and then the interviewer says, yes, but gun violence or violence in general is down in this country. And he goes, yes, but people don't feel like they are. Well, maybe people don't feel like the economy is doing well, but the numbers suggest something else. I'm not going to keep arguing this point with you because you're a blind ideologue who still doesn't buy the fact that the government can lie to you, even though they've been lying to you for years. They're lying to you now. You have freely admitted that you don't believe what Hillary Clinton is saying, but you hope that she is saying the right things, and you hope that she means what she's saying, but you know in your heart that she does not. So Bryce, when are you finally going to make the leap and understand that our government does not have our best interests at heart? So when they start putting reports out like this, it isn't because it's sunshine and lollipops and everything's golden. It's because there's a certain group that's in power that want to make sure that they remain in power, and it's what happens every single election cycle. The party that is in power, that is trying to maintain power, is doing everything they can through numbers, media perception, and everything else to maintain and control that power. You now have Barack Obama, who everybody knows despises Hillary Clinton, is out on the campaign trail stumping for her, even though everybody knows behind closed doors that those families cannot stand each other. Because it's all about power and control, Bryce. That's what needs to stop. Right. No, definitely. I mean, because that definitely discounts all the bureaucratic agencies and all the, everything that the government has, all the people working under the government. We're just going to discount the government as a source because, .gov is complete BS. And I mean, then if you're going to totally discount, no, I'm not saying don't question statistics.
No, that's exactly what you're saying.
No, it's not.
No, bull. That's exactly what you've been saying for the last 20 minutes. Well, Rick, these things come from Bureau of Labor Statistics, blah, 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 blah. That's funny because the unemployment rate comes from Bureau of Labor Statistics, and everybody admits they've been cooking that for a while because they removed the chronically under or unemployed from their equations. So if they're cooking one part of the books, and we know they are, who says they're not cooking the rest of it? Look, Bryce, how can you defend that at this point when you and I both know that if they put the people that have not been able to find work for longer than 6 to 9 months back into the equation, our unemployment rate would be closer to 25 to 30%.
When did they change that equation?
You know when they changed it?
When?
Bush, 41 is when they changed it.
Okay, and why did they change it? Why did they do that?
Because it's all about perception, Bryce.
I really feel like it's not just, if we take this number out, then the people in the media will think that we're doing a good job. I don't believe that. I want to understand why they changed that, because maybe they did it because they, developed some new system, or maybe they did it because it was for some new welfare system. I don't know, because if you're not going to tell me why they did it, then I'm going to have to question you on that. Why did they do it? And
I just told you why they did it. You just don't want to buy it because you're still young and you're still idealistic and you still think the government has your best interest at heart when you know they don't, but you don't want to believe that. Because you are reliant on government, because the government fixes your issues with climate change.
Okay, that's beyond ridiculous.
No, it's not, Bryce. No, it's not.
Of how the system is working. And to be honest, there is no factual basis for one's feelings. That's idealistic. saying, oh, I feel like the economy's not working.
No, Bryce. I'm using actual empirical data. You're using pie charts and flow charts. I talk to people every single day that are out of work for the first time in 10 years.
It's the complete opposite.
No, it's not, Bryce.
It would be facts and statistics.
Except those facts and statistics can be
to people
changed.
Is not, someone who lost their job is not a credible source on how the economy's doing. Because then you could ask somebody who's...
Except that I take over 125 calls a day on average, and I usually speak to about 50% of them that are reporting that for the first time in 15 years they're unemployed.
Even that is not a viable statistic for how the economy as a whole is doing on a macro level. That's not... Milton Friedman would not accept that.
Milton Friedman would not accept that.
It's true. That's ridiculous. Oh, should I ask, if I told you that I asked 100 people around my college campus, do you think the climate is getting warmer? Has it felt warmer to you? I would not accept that as basis for the fact that the climate is changing. Asking 100 people.
Except you're asking for an opinion of does it feel warmer to you? I am telling you that I speak to hundreds of people. I am telling you that I speak to hundreds of people a day that are reporting that they've lost their jobs. I'm telling you that in the state that I live in, the oil industry is tanking and is still not yet recovered. I'm telling you that in the state that I live in, the companies that are involved in industry and the energy industry are closing. They're cutting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs. So don't you tell me how much better the economy's doing, because I'm living through the exact opposite. So you can tell me, you can show me pie charts, you can show me on a macro level how much better the economy's doing. The thing that really needs to be thought about, though, is where are those jobs being created? And was it the federal government that did it? Is it new government jobs? Because in essence, new government jobs really don't generate any new income, because those are already being taken out of tax revenue. Or was it a state like Texas, where if it wasn't for the economic growth in Texas, we would have negative GDP for the last 8 years? That's the point I've been trying to make. These numbers can be flawed.
Let's just take what you just said, and I'll show you how your numbers could just be flawed. You said that you're talking to people from the energy industry. Well, let's just say, hypothetically, the energy industry is not doing too well. Well, you didn't talk to people from all other industries, so how is that a perception of the economy as a whole? It's not. You're not talking to people from the solar industry. You're not talking to people from the nuclear industry. You're not talking to people from the wind industry. You said you're just talking to people from oil. That oil is tanking, so therefore the economy is bad. Now I ask yourself where these jobs are being created. Well,
hey, genius, stop talking. We have a caller. And
Bryce.
Hello.
How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey.
I'm assuming this is your guest for here in like a minute, which is why I've been trying to wind you down.
Calling for a previous show. Hey, Dr. Massey, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Well, we're just finishing up the previous show, and then we're going to roll right into Opinionation.
Yeah, which is why I've been trying to wind you down for like 5 minutes, because we're now getting into your showtime. Anyway, folks, this is the end of Finding Common Ground. We're going to change gears, be right back with Opinion Nation. This is Rick Robinson. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll be back with you Monday morning. Take care.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them. Republicans and Democrats.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks. Well, good evening. This is the Jen and Rick Show. I'm one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jen, and she's with me right now. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I would be doing better if it was Friday, but then again, if it was Friday, I wouldn't be hanging out with you. I'd be hanging out with Dan. So I'm gonna say I got a scenery upgrade on Thursdays. I'm just saying.
Hey, I love Dan.
Oh, okay. So anyway, lots of stuff going on in the news. So I think we're going to start with one that I think I'm the most confused over. And since you happen to be a woman, I think it's better to get your point of view on it. This whole Trump saying that women shouldn't need a prescription to get birth control. That's the only thing that he said that I'm kind of like really not that sure on. I just know that I'm not a doctor, and I know that there are people that can get really, really sick from using that, and I've even known a couple of news stories about people dying from it, so I'm not so sure it should be completely over the counter, but I thought it would be nice to get a woman's perspective.
Right. Well, here's the thing. He was talking about birth control, and I know we kind of as a society treat it this way, so I think that a lot of people tend to be rather misinformed on it. But he was treating birth control, and I'm no expert, but, as someone who has been, people have tried to persuade to be on it most of my, adult life, even teenage life, and read all the pamphlets and done all and talked to the people. I've never taken it myself, but I'm very familiar with a lot of it. We kind of treat it like it's just like taking cough medicine or like Sudafed or something. It's not. And even with those things, you have things that you shouldn't do and protocols you should take. But I mean, this is something that actually causes like hormonal changes in your body, differences in your chemical makeup in order for it to work properly. So that in and of itself should require you to see a doctor and get a prescription, and that should null and void the conversation of having it be over the counter. Now, on top of that, it's kind of like blood pressure medication or anything like that, where it can be safely, as far as we know, a part of your daily life if you are taking it the way it's prescribed, and you understand that after talking about it with a nurse or a doctor that prescribes it to you. Also, after having fully disclosed your medical history and current medications you are taking. You can't just take birth control if you are on various other medications on a regular basis. And as someone who has an autoimmune disease and who was on medication for it for several years, had I taken birth control at that time, my increased risk of stroke or blood clot was through the roof. So it's not so simple as just like, well, millions of women take it every day. It should just be available. They should just be able to go up to the pharmacist and buy it. It's a more serious drug than that. And I think we kind of overlook it because it's just become such a normal part of life. And I think it should be. Women should have decent access to birth control. But not taking away the prescription aspect, in my non-medical opinion, just my common sense opinion, is not a smart thing to do.
Well, see, that's kind of my take on it, but I thought if I said that, I would come across as just evil, mean guy that just wanted to keep women away from birth control.
It's not like, hey, don't let them have it. It's just that you should have to see someone that adequately explains the proper use of it and also knows your medical history so that they know what kind to give you. Because sometimes some things work with one. If someone is on medication, for example, for something, they might be able to do another form of birth control rather than just the pill that won't have the same complications as a pill would. And then there are different brands of the pill that all have different things they do in the way they react in your body. So I absolutely think that something of that kind should absolutely be advised by a doctor and need a prescription. Now, maybe I do think one thing that we've done in the United States is we've kind of tied both hands behind our pharmacist's back, and we finally started to open that up a little bit by allowing them to do the flu shots. There are some pharmacies where the pharmacist can kind of act as like the 5-minute doc clinic type thing where they can, diagnose basic things. They can provide just basic medical care. That was one of the things for all the things that are wrong with healthcare in Europe. When I lived in Spain, that was one of the things that was great though about the pharmacist is like you didn't have to wait to go to a GP or anything like that. You could just walk straight into the pharmacist if you were having, let's say, a sore throat or running a fever or just, something basic that you didn't need to go to an ER for. You could walk into a pharmacist, be treated. They can write you the prescription right there and fill it for you right there and then send you on your way. Or if they thought it was something more serious or that you needed, more in-depth care, then they would recommend you to a doctor or send you on to the hospital. And I think that we have such highly trained, they all have to go through such rigorous education that we're kind of underutilizing that part of their experience and education, that maybe that could be an alternative, is that you could go to a pharmacist, you have to provide certain things, all medications you're on, they can look you up in the medical doc system, and then they can adequately prescribe. That would cut out some of the in-between that makes it maybe a little bit more difficult sometimes for women to keep up with their prescriptions. But as far as just not having a prescription at all, I think that that's kind of a dangerous way to go.
No, I mean, honestly, that would be a good compromise. I've noticed lately that I see this happening more and more in a lot of the larger drugstores. They'll have little clinics that are actually run in the drugstores
Right.
a lot of times now. And I think expanding and utilizing that more and making it more readily available for everybody would probably help with all aspects of healthcare. Because there's a clinic that I go to I say right down the street, but I live in the middle of nowhere, so it's about 8 miles from here. But it's run by nurses. There's one doctor that runs the whole place, but all he really does is review all the nurses. So there are certain things they can't do there. But if you're just trying to go in because you got a cold or sniffles or whatever, it's a great place to go because you get in, you get out, and, it's pretty simple. So, I mean, that's one of the things that we could start doing as well, is expanding a lot of these newer clinic types that I've seen kind of springing up everywhere over the last 10 years, all these little urgent care centers that are now actually starting. I've seen a few of them that are an urgent care center / general practitioner office. So not only can it be somewhere you go for urgent care, it can also be somewhere where you're actually seeing a doctor that has access to all of your medical records and does routine checkups for you, etc. I went to one of those in Midwest City because it was great, because if there was something that came up with my kids, we just went there, and it was also where my doctor was at the time that had all my files. I mean, there are so many different ways that we could be taking care of a lot of these things that we're just not. Yeah. And
yeah, it's utilizing it and utilizing nurse practitioners, which are just like such a small step below a doctor. It's not even funny. The amount of education they have and their ability to treat, in a clinic type situation. I think that, and it's cheaper for these clinics than it is for, some of these private doctors' offices. And they can take on nurses and doctors that are kind of working their way into whatever kind of field of medicine they want to do, or so they can just hire the recent graduates or people that are coming, back to a place after they've kind of had their career and they're coming home. I mean, that's what I know, that one of the ones at the clinic nearby, that's this guy, had his own practice in another part of the country for a very long time. After retiring, wanted to come back to where he grew up, as he doesn't have much family. And so, and they're all here. So he was able to get on as kind of, part-time at an urgent care place like that. And he's got a crazy amount of experience. And, but it's affordable usually for the patients and for the clinics as well. So it's been cool to see that happen, because that seriously was one of the few takeaways from when I lived over there of their system. I got sick several times while I was there, as did a few of my friends. And being able to walk into the pharmacist, have them swab you for strep and check for sinus infections and do all of that and treat you right then and there and walk out was really great. The downside was that there aren't that many private doctor's offices that just take anybody, if you don't live there full time or you haven't used them for a long time. So most people, they either go to the pharmacist, or the pharmacist can't treat them, or if it gets worse, then they go to the hospital. So the hospitals are that's kind of become the GP of those places, is just going to the hospital. And I spent a couple nights in the emergency room, one for myself and one with a friend. And then even in the hospital, their basic cure is we'll do chest x-rays and then we'll give you a shot of steroids in your butt. And that's, send you on your way. And it worked, but okay, great. There was no real, it didn't seem like there was much of an evaluation. It was like, oh, you're sick, you have an infection, we'll give you something to clear that right up, bend over. And it happened with almost every single one of us that couldn't knock something out. We all kind of got a It's kind of a bronchial infection that we couldn't quite knock out with just regular antibiotics. And everybody had that happen at various different hospitals. It was like, okay, that's just their thing. They're like, well, if this doesn't cure it, then they're going to die.
Nice. Okay, so before we get on with the rest of the topics that we had kind of bandied back and forth about for a little bit, I don't remember if we've talked about this much this week, but I just kind of have to bring it up again because Sean Hannity is at it again. And no, this isn't what we were just talking about a second ago.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
That's right, folks. Sean Hannity, basically in an audio clip, has reminded folks not to mess with him, and they better vote for Trump because he's a brown belt.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say. He's a mess. He's just a mess. He's become like a parody of.
He's got Sarah Palin syndrome.
Yeah. He's like become a parody of himself, right? And, SNL would be great to pick up on this and mock him because you could do a lot of funny stuff with what he's put out there lately.
And dude, all they've got to do is mine the 2016 election cycle, and Saturday Night Live could have material for the next 30 years. They really could.
Oh,
and it's just terrible.
Yeah. This whole cycle. Oh, good grief! I don't even know how you choose as someone who is a writer for something like SNL, or if you're a comedian, doing stand-up on Friday nights in Hollywood. I don't know how you choose. There's just too much stuff.
It's just insane watching all of this stuff unfold. The funny thing is, today, because I wound up staying home from the day job because I had a trip to the chiropractor yesterday that messed me up a little bit more than usual. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, there's not really anything on. I really don't want to leave my chair right now because I've got the massager turned on and it's helping with the back. So I turn on Netflix and I start going through recent releases. They had a new Jeff Foxworthy, Larry the Cable Guy thing on, so I started watching it. And of course, these guys are talking about the election cycle because this was all taped in end of 2015, beginning 2016. So it was when things were really starting to get interesting. And Jeff Foxworthy's like, I really don't, same thing you just said. He's like, I really don't see a clear choice this election cycle. And I'm like, well, damn, even if the comedians are picking up on it, we've got a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got the diehards of each, and among those groups, their candidate can do no wrong. They can spin anything however they need to make it fit, what they want and what they believe or what they think they believe. And then you've got a whole bunch of us that aren't far left or far right, or at least have some other weird kind of devotion to these human beings that people are like gods. And you've got a whole bunch of us in between there, left and right and middle, that are going, WTF, get me out of here. Can we start over, or come on, SMOD?
I'm still voting for Smod, I'm not going to lie. I mean, on the actual ballot, I still, unfortunately, am leaning towards Johnson, and that's only because write-ins don't work in my state, and I'm not voting for either one of those two, and I would feel extremely weird about leaving the top of the ballot blank. Although it really disturbs me that my choice is between Tribblehead, the Brownie Eater, and Parkinson Girl.
I don't know why that just struck me as so funny, you saying that way.
Well, I mean, it was not necessarily intended as funny, but it kind of outlines the exact situation we find ourselves in. We can either vote for a guy that spends the majority of his time talking about how much he likes marijuana edibles. We can vote for a guy that tells us we have to beat Hillary Clinton because of what she stands for. Yet stands for much of the same things and is starting to reveal more and more of them. Or we can vote for someone who's lying about her health and is probably really, really sick and doesn't want anybody to know. I mean, yeah, half dozen of one, six of the other, we're all in the same place. We have a Democrat running as a Libertarian, a Democrat running as a Republican, and pretty sure we have a Socialist running as a Democrat. But I thought we were getting that with Bernie, but I think we got it with Hillary.
Kind of a socialist fascist running? She's kind of a... I mean, I know a lot of socialists are fascists anyway, but it's just, she's a mixed bag over there that definitely leans more left than just average Democrat, but then not so much on other things, and she's kind of authoritarian, which, is a common trait of her and Trump.
She's a mixed old bag. Let's get that thrown in there.
A mixed old bag hag, yes.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm watching all the new stuff, and it's so... I hate to say it, but at this point, I'm here for the popcorn because we've known this was happening for about 12 months. We've been warning everybody it was going to happen, and we keep watching Trump roll out all these leftist policies, and all of the people that were touting him for being so conservative and what a great Republican he was are now like, well, these are great ideas now that he has them. Really?
Some of the stuff I've seen over the last few days has just been like hair ripping out frustrating. The way that they're like, well, imagine if you're a poor single mom whose dad ran out and you have 3 kids' mouths to feed, and just in order to work, you have to go into poverty to pay for childcare. Oh my gosh, that has been the liberal sing-song for as long as I can imagine. And like I said today, there are plenty of programs in place to help someone in that position, number one. And number two, what's next? Are we going to be rationalizing the, minimum wage increase to $15 an hour? Are we going to be, obviously we know that
he's already done that.
Single payer. I meant just these people, though. They're kind of saying like, oh, y'all are just saying he said that, but he won't say that when it's like he's the nominee or when he's the president. He's going to be totally Republican then. It's just such a joke. It's such a joke. I like what one of these articles we were talking about earlier. What was it? In Conservative Review with Steve Deese said, if we have to beat Hillary Clinton because of what she stands for, then why are we voting for someone giving us what Hillary Clinton stands for? He'll do Hillary better than Hillary is basically what they're selling right now. It's so true, but without the lying, murderous, corrupt side of it, because that's only her. It's just, it's tiring, really. It's tiring. And he's exactly right. They're basically arguing that he'll out Hillary. And that's what we're supposed to be happy with? That's insane.
And I guess the scariest thing about that is they're all like, oh, look, he's starting to climb in the polls. And there really are a lot of polls that are starting to show him either getting to the point where he's gained almost all the ground back with her, or he's actually, even in a lot of states, apparently starting to pull ahead. But, the thing I have to ask with that is, if we have to win elections by becoming the very people that we used to fight against, who's winning, us or them?
Yeah, they are. And here's the thing is that if we have to go progressive in order to beat progressives, then all we're ever going to get is progressivism, which is what supposedly we stand against and fight for, which is supposedly why none of these other candidates were good enough for all of the Trump supporters, the diehards. They could pick apart the smallest things that had anything to do with compromising with a Democrat or even talking to a Democrat on a subject as disqualifiers. But now it's totally cool to go so far left in order to beat a leftist. We're never going to be able to go back. It's all going to be progressivism. And I'm sorry to tell them, that won't help any of their causes, fears, whatever about illegal immigration. I mean, you can't walk forward in such outright progressivism on 5 or 6 different policy fronts and then go, oh, no, but this one, we're going to be so hard right that even most Republicans don't support it. It's not going to work. It will never happen. It will never come to fruition. And they don't care. They just lap it up like the little, sycophants they are.
I was about to say the same thing. The funny thing is to watch them rationalize it, because you see it, when we start pointing out, hey, he's pretty far left on this one. Hey, he's pretty far left over here on this one. Well, he's only saying that because he has to, because now he has to go find new voters because you conservatives and you diehard conservatives wouldn't support him. Well, I thought you guys were the conservatives, because aren't you guys always the ones that are calling us liberals for not supporting him? You can't have it both ways. Am I a diehard conservative or am I a liberal?
Right. And that's the thing, is it's like, I'm not supporting outright liberal pushes for everything he comes out with recently. All of his policy plans that he comes out with are increasingly leftist. And somehow, though, I'm the liberal and I'm anti-America and I'm, anti the working people because I'm refusing to support very obviously leftist policies. It's over not supporting obviously leftist policies. I mean, it's those versus those. It's not like there is a whole lot of daylight between these two candidates. So the way they conduct themselves in public is about the only difference at this point. He mouths off, he name calls, he says things that are just outrageous, and the media can jump on and everybody can go, oh my gosh, why did he do that again? She conducts herself in a little bit more, professional fashion. And, but what they're talking about doing with this country, other than the wall, basically, which has been skipped around and walked back 5 million times, there's not a whole lot of difference. It's just who's going to push it farther left.
And that actually kind of seems like the contest at this point. It seems like these two kind of have these two kind of different bets going. And I wouldn't be surprised, with as good of friends as they are behind closed doors, that this probably isn't something that is actually going on. There's probably two different bets running concurrently. One of them probably came up with the bet of, let's see who can run the crappiest possible campaign and still get elected, and then somebody else spouted off and, well, let's see which one of us can push farther left and still get elected. Because, I mean, look, the thing with Trump is everybody talks about how he's this great bastion of conservatism. The dude has never known who he was politically. He's always been looking for an in. He's one of these people that tries on new parties just like anybody else would try on a new suit. And I think what he's found out is the Republican suit that he's been wearing for about the last 15, 16 months doesn't really fit him very well. So he's starting to take it off piece by piece, and what you're finding underneath is the same liberal clothing that he's had on this entire time, but he put on a Republican suit over the top of it. And nobody wanted to listen to us when we said this over and over and over again. But the simple fact of the matter is, again, folks, at this point, I'm only here for the popcorn, because it kind of becomes like parenting at some point. You can only push your children so far. You can only try to teach them right and wrong for so long before at some point they have to figure out how to stand on their own. As somebody who sits behind a microphone 5 days a week, sometimes more than once a day, actually 6 days a week, sometimes more than once a day, and does all of the other things that I've done for the last several years to try to get people's attention and wake them up. Look, there's only so much that we can do, because you still have to be the one to live with your choices. The simple fact of the matter is, at this point, I know America's made the wrong choices, but there's nothing I can do about it now. And everybody keeps asking me, well, who's your pick? Who would you pick? There's not a pick because, look, let's face it, the best we can do at this point is block anybody from getting 270 and kick it over to Congress because there's no clear path for anybody at this point but these two. And I acknowledge that, but I still will not support either one of them. I don't care if you're a Republican telling me that if I don't vote for Trump, then I'm voting for Hillary. I don't care if you're a liberal telling me that if I don't vote for Hillary, then I'm voting for Trump. I've even had some friends that I consider conservative telling me that since I won't vote for Hillary, I'm giving a half vote for Trump, and that's unacceptable because Trump has to be stopped at all costs. At this point, they both have to be stopped at all costs. No matter which one of these two win, we lose. And I've said that for months, and I'm not going to stop saying it, but it doesn't change the fact that there's really not any way to keep either one of them from getting into office. Unless we can find a way to block 270 and then kick it over to Congress, there's no stopping it at this point. Evans not on enough ballots. Too many states don't recognize write-ins. The Libertarian Party is a joke at this point because they've turned it over to Cheech and Chong. I mean, we don't have there's no path here. But I cannot support either one of these two.
But that's the thing. I don't have to own either one of them or their actions or how they behave in public or the crazy crap that they say or the policies that push us closer and closer to a socialist America. I don't have to vote for either one of them and own any of their successes or failures. And I certainly don't have to vote for Trump and be part of his destruction of the conservative movement that I know people like you and me have been pushing, fighting, speaking out for so long, which he has almost single-handedly just taken an axe to. And that's the bottom line for me. I totally understand voting for him we've talked about this a million times, so you know what I'm going to say. But for me, I'm like, I don't have to own either one of these awful candidates that America lost their minds and decided to put forth.
And on that note, folks, we are at the bottom of the hour. We're going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, more of the craziness that has been 2016, or as we all around these parts have been lovingly calling it, dumpster fire 2016. Because it's still a mess, it's still raging, and we've got several days until we figure out just how screwed we are. Oh joy. Be back in a few.
Cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
'Cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is the Jen and Rick Show, and we are continuing to talk about the craziness that is this election cycle. And the funny thing is, and this is going to be kind of probably the last part of the show, and it still kind of fits. I'm just trying to get something pulled up real quick because I just realized that I had a power failure earlier and forgot to pull my soundboard back up. So bear with me for just 1 second here, because we have enough going on that I think we have found a protracted version of the WTF files, but I can't play it without, I can't start it without the sound effect. And I thought it was loading, and apparently now it's not, which is odd. There it goes. All right, here we go.
What the man?
Alright, so in this Thursday edition of the WTF Files, again, nothing really gross, but just really, really weird. One of the things we were talking about on break, and I think I'll open with that, is with this newest gambit of Donald Trump moving into more and more leftist policies. The most recent one, or the biggest one that he's really been talking about, has been the paid maternity leave and all of that fun stuff. The really fun thing to watch on Twitter is all of these people like Bill Mitchell, who were completely opposed to the idea when it was Bernie's, are now doing the whole guilt trip of, oh my God, you just don't understand what it's like to be a woman who's had to work two jobs just to have one of them to pay for daycare. And I'm like, but 3 weeks ago when this was Bernie's idea, you said it was terrible. So,
yeah. I mean, they're having to just really spin their wheels here. And so now they're pulling out that whole compassion card because, newsflash, this is progressive and it's what leftists do. So they're pulling on the heartstrings to try to justify this stance right now. And it's really laughable because they contradict themselves so much, and they don't even they're trying so desperately to explain it that they don't understand even just basic logic in the matter. It's like their brains have been completely eaten up by the Trump virus. So they're saying things to us like, well, but it's not an employer mandate. They never said mandate. So employers won't be forced to pay for it, because most conservatives put their hands up at that and say, wait, don't tell private businesses what to do. First of all, if you believe that, I've got, ocean property in Arizona for you. Absolutely, they will at some point, compel businesses that are of this size or make this much money per year to have to be required to provide this. Secondly, they say, well, but it's not mandating right now. But part of what he's talking about is amending the existing unemployment insurance that companies are required to carry and pay into. And that would pay for some of this plan. Okay, so the companies are paying for it. Even though they're not being compelled to carry, to provide this certain, benefit, they are going to be, in a roundabout way, paying for it. The other part is that it says government guaranteed. Well, no, but you're not going to pay for it. It's going to be the companies. Wait. You just told me the companies aren't going to have to pay for it. Well, only for the ones that don't already provide. And then you see how this is such pretzel logic here, and they just get off track so quick and they twist all around themselves. So then you say, well, no, but it says government guaranteed. So if you're not forcing the companies to do it, it means a lot of companies won't, which means the government already guaranteed it. That's what the policy says. So they're going to have to cover the cost. Well, right, but it's going to be from cutting out fraud and abuse and this and that. So that extra money is what's going to be used for this. Okay, still though, where did that money come from? Who paid that money? Even if it has been used fraudulently, even if programs have been abused, where did that money come from? Anybody? Oh, that's right, the taxpayer. The government doesn't have its own money, and especially not entitlement programs, not in welfare. So it either is coming from the employers and the taxpayers, or it's coming for one or the other, or mostly one with the backup of the other. You can't have it both ways. It still is a roundabout mandate, and it absolutely is an entitlement. It increases entitlements, because if they cannot get the fraud and other things under control, if they cannot, amend the UI in order to offset the reduction so that we don't have to raise taxes on it, if they can't do those things, then guess what's going to happen? We are going to have taxes raised. Yippee-ki-yay. So it's all a bunch of lib speak. It's that kind of roundabout, confusing way that they try to rope you into believing something and confusing you with all the various different sides they come at you with it, because they know that it's all a bunch of crap. And if they don't know that, then they're not that smart to begin with. Sorry.
And nothing to be sorry for when you're being truthful. The interesting thing is you listen to Trump's plans for things like Obamacare and now this and a lot of the other things that he's been coming out with lately. And you hear all the pro-Trump talking heads talking about how socialism under Hillary will be terrible. And we have to stop socialism. We have to stop statism. And I'm looking at all these new programs that he's talking about. I'm going, okay, so either you guys think at this point that he's pandering, which he may well be. I don't think he is, but that may be what he's doing. Or you obviously are not paying attention to the things that he's been saying. Because you can't be talking about how Hillary's brand of socialism is going to be completely terrible when Trump is offering a very similar brand of socialism, and apparently that seems to be the greatest thing ever. Maybe he should change his slogan from Making America Great Again to Making America Socialist? I would say again, but we've never really been socialist in the first place, so can't really say again.
Just recently, and just not too long ago, Bill Mitchell, who we were talking about with all of this, he's been like one of the main pushers of all of this, just said, hashtag never Trump, are traitors to conservatism. Yet he has not spent one single second of the last week defending anything close to what looks like conservatism. He's been defending liberalism. He's been defending socialism. He's been defending progressivism. So he can go ahead and take that and shove it right back up where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, well, I just, when are they gonna basically own up to what they've done? I mean, because I keep hearing everybody like Mitchell and Dupree and all of the other mid-level folks, and then even some of the bigger ones like Hannity say that when Hillary wins, we're going to have to own it. I don't have to own any of that because I've been up front with you guys since about 3 months in when I said, look, I gave him a look. I actually was thinking about him, and then I realized he's nuts. So if you guys want this guy, you're on your own. And I'm going to talk to you every single day about why I don't think he should be the choice. And again, I understand all these people that are looking at it now going, well, I don't really feel like we have any other option, so I'm going to have to vote for the guy. I've actually been in a very long discussion with a fellow radio host who actually does this on terrestrial, and unfortunately I have so many mentions today I'm not keeping up with him very well, but we were talking back and forth for hours yesterday, and he actually was originally part of Never Trump, and now is just like, there's not any clear path for me, and I don't see any. I found him. He's Alan J. Sanders, who does he owns AJS Productions and actually is on WSB and WBHF, and we've been talking for most of 2 days because he just doesn't get it at this point, because in his mind there are only two choices. It's going to be either Hillary or Trump, and he thinks that we need to pick and his exact words are, at this point, he's looking to see who is the less dark of the two. I submit at this point, when we have to start looking at our elections as deciding that our leader needs to be the less dark of the two options, we've already lost. I mean, because at this point, we're going from the lesser of two evils to pick your poison, because neither of them are going to do what's best for America. This is apparent by the things that they're telling us right now, and nobody's listening, because when they say them, they don't really mean that. They're just trying to pick up votes. Because, and I've been saying this all week, each day you watch Trump roll out some policies that are more and further left and more progressive, and yet you have all of these people that are screaming, but Rick SCOTUS, if all of his political planks and all of his platform choices are so liberal, do you honestly believe he's going to make conservative choices for SCOTUS? Because I don't.
Yeah, I have no faith in that whatsoever. Also, to that point about he's got to do this to pick up more. He's just saying it because of this. Wait. This was the candidate that these initial supporters, the very diehard supporters, told us was not a politician. He was not a politician. He would not do that crap. He was going to tell it like it was. He didn't care what people thought. He absolutely was going to sell the things that he knew were right, and that's it. So this doesn't hold any water. I mean, they just can't. They got so conned. They got so conned, and they're so invested in him now. It's embarrassing to pull back, but it's embarrassing to stay in. This whole picking up more. That's why they hated Bush. That's why they hated Rubio for any sort of, anything that resembled a compromise with the left or a move towards any leftist argument or even discussing something with a Democrat was deemed, disqualifying. Yet it's perfectly okay for him to say things to pick up votes or to reach out to newer voters. And then what? He's just going to turn on them and smack them upside the head? Great guy you got there. I mean, they've just been so conned. It's outstanding.
Just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy, huh?
Yeah, it makes me want to put my head through a wall, but,
You have a strange definition of warm and fuzzy. All right. So, last bit to talk about for the night, still connected to the WTF files. And that is the article that I sent over to you that suddenly I can't find because my computer's being really stupid.
The expansion of government hacking.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so they're going to expand government using malware secretly with some amendments to Rule 41 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, which allow them to kind of use the courts to get some of these things approved. So the biggest thing here is that it's not approved by Congress. And these courts and the way that this is supposed to be and these rules are supposed to be amended, the reason why it was supposed to go through these side courts is because they were just small procedural type things. This is a major policy change, also a major national security change that should absolutely, I think, be approved by Congress. So what people are really worried about, and quite frankly, this article that we're looking at wasn't so worried about, and this is on Wired.com. It wasn't so much worried about them being able to spy on us as it was about the consequences of the actual technical consequences of this type of hacking and how it can crash systems, compromise infrastructure. If it happens on something like a hospital server, it can literally take them down and doctors can't access files and surgery logs and things like that to treat people the way they need to be treated. But yeah, the biggest thing, and obviously it could be co-opted, used by criminals, because it's just, I guess malware is kind of, I'm not super techie on these fronts, but I guess it's pretty, it's kind of hard to get them stable, get these software systems, these malware things stable so that it can be problematic, as they found in various other situations. What do you think about it?
I think it's funny how they're not even really touching on the biggest, scariest part of this, which is what it's actually going to be used for. I mean, so again, like you said, their biggest focus is the danger that the malware can have on all of these systems that it's going to be infesting, and that's a true scenario, and it's a big thing to be worried about. But let's not forget the reason why they're trying to put all this stuff on the computers is so they can spy on you anytime they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. And this goes back to, and the reason this sits so poorly with me, this goes back to my technical troubleshooting days from about 10 years ago, before I really started moving into management. One of the calls that everybody always talks about, because there's one of these in every training class, because there's somebody that thought it was funny. Because, you'll be troubleshooting somebody's DirecTV box or dish box or whatever, and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so afraid that there's a camera in this thing and that people are watching me. And the dude's like, hey, that's a pretty green dress you have on, trying to dissuade the fact that somebody's actually watching, because who would have thought she had a green dress on? And I mean, there's a million of these stories, and you probably hear different things about different clothing, etc. But the simple fact of the matter is, these have been fears people have had for a very long time. And as the story goes, and the one that I heard, she actually did have a green dress on. She smashed all of her DirecTV boxes, canceled her contract, and it was just terrible. And it's just one of those things where we already have all of these deep-seated fears about the government not having our best interests at heart. We have for a very long time, which is why I find it so funny that we have all of these deep-seated fears about them doing all of these things, but yet we keep re-electing the same two sides that keep doing all of these things. And then we keep finding more and more proof that they're doing exactly what we've been afraid of this entire time. And then we rise up, we throw a fit, it supposedly stops, and yet here we are again.
Right. Well, and I think, especially with this thing, one thing that it kind of like barely said was, they could access millions of devices and computers with a single warrant. And I was like, what? Are you kidding? That's ridiculous. Also, by the way, this goes into effect December 1st unless Congress acts. So it's not like this is something that's happening in the next few years. It's happening now.
Yeah, we're talking about this is basically being snuck in the middle of an election cycle, and they were hoping nobody was going to notice.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. But remember, Democrats are transparent. This is the most transparent administration ever.
Transparently crooked. But then again, that's pretty much the same for all of them anymore. I'm not even going to lie. I have very little faith in any politicians anymore. The only one that I'm still slightly, at least pulling for the most part, is Cruz, because while everybody's still calling him a liar, a cheat, a thief, everything else they can think of, he's been quietly waging a war in Congress to try to make sure that we get to maintain control of the interwebs, which is also about to go away, and nobody's really talking about that either.
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said before, though, I think that this whole election has allowed for a lot of distraction from a lot of things going on in Washington. It's been a nice little veil.
Yeah, I'm still curious to find out how all this net neutrality stuff is going to wind up hurting all of the folks that are doing things like you and I, and the business aspects of all of it, because I'm sure there are about to be all kinds of licensing changes and all kinds of things the government's going to figure out a way to work their way into. So who knows? We may not be doing this much longer, but I'm going to keep trying for as long as I can. And I've done pirate radio before. So what's the difference between doing pirate radio on the internet and doing it over the airwaves?
Yeah, true. I'm sure they want a piece of every bit of the pie.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that they're figuring out is with everything moving towards digital, with them not being able to maintain control of it and having it an actual free market. I mean, look, the internet is basically being referred to as the Wild West of the new millennium, with good reason, because pretty much anything that you want to find there, you can find there. You can find ways to carve out your own niche. I mean, look at Bannon, Trump's main advisor now. He actually made a fortune selling gold on on one of the MMOs. So, I mean, the thing about it is, if you know how to do it and you know how to use it, there's money to be made on the internet. And the government's realizing that they need to get a hold of a lot more of that money, and they think by turning it over to international control, it's going to be a lot easier to regulate it. Because as long as it's here, we're supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave. That's not nearly as true as it used to be. But if they turn it over to international control, then all bets are off. And it's one of the things that we may not talk about it much, but it's something that we talk about pretty much every chance we get, when I'm not too busy laughing at Sean Hannity talking about his brown belt. But on that note, folks, we are officially out of time. So, my dear, why don't you do as you do every time we wrap up the show and remind folks where they can hang out with you when you're not on air with me.
Alrighty, well, I am at J Homestead on Twitter, JR Homestead on Facebook, and come check out misfitpolitics.weebly.com.
All right, I, of course, am Rick Robinson. You can hang out with me on Twitter at AOTR_host. You can check out the America Off the Rails show, now moved to a daytime slot, so 11 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, I'm live Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday nights. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Jen and Rick, just like right now. Friday nights, Robinson and Wright. Jen and Rick is 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Robinson Wright is 11 Eastern, 10 Central. And then, of course, I'm live bright and early again on Saturday morning on Finding Common Ground. And you can also hear a lot of work that I do on Spreaker, SoundCloud, Stitcher, AMFM247.com, also Red Nation Rising Radio, the Liberty Channel. And speaking of which, remind me, Jen, I'm going to reach out to them and find out if they want to start carrying this one too. Might as well. I think they still have some room.
Cool.
All right, and on that note, folks, we are out. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for America Off the Rails. And until I see you, take care, be safe, God bless. Don't take any wooden nickels from Lord Cheesy Poof. Just saying.
I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do